Go to school, baby. Oh, aren't you glad there's Nickelodeon every day?
So how long has it been since you've seen your daughter?
2 years.
He doesn't know what to say.
Hi.
He doesn't know where to turn.
Daddy! You're on a timeout! What's that?
All he knows
He's being a little terrible right now.
is that he'd do anything for her. From the creator of Terms of Endearment comes a new comedy, I'll Do Anything.
I love you more than anybody.
Rated PG-13 at theaters Friday.
Are you gonna sleep all day?
Yeah.
I got an idea. Let's get some corn pops. We don't have any. They don't have Kellogg's corn pops? Get serious. I am. She isn't. Oh, like sweet, crunchy popcorn. I can almost taste it. And I'm not spending my weekend with someone who snorts, which I'm gonna tell everybody at school if I can't have my pops.
Come on, girls. I bought those corn pops. Want a bowl?
Well, sure, if that's what you got.
Kellogg's Corn Pop cereal is part of this complete breakfast.
I gotta have my pops.
People eat. I like snacks.
It's like for kids. It's the best part of the week. I love it. It's happening. Nick.
Oh, there I am at the game. It's a beautiful day. Blue skies, hint of a breeze. The crowd is yelling all around me. Hey, shut up. I can smell the hot dogs. I can feel the tension in the air. I am so close. I can see every drop of sweat. I am there. And then suddenly, the best part of all hits me. I don't have to leave early to get out of the parking lot.
Total home theater, only at Smith's Home Furnishings.
Yo! Are you hip to these?
Are you in the know?
Cause here's where Ego Minis were made to go.
In your mouth.
Who needs a plate?
In your mouth.
Cause they made the picture face.
In your mouth.
Then make a yum.
Ego Minis.
Show them how it's done. You can
Pop 'em in your mouth. Move it up and down. Give 'em all you got.
Where's it gonna stop?
In your mouth.
Try more for size.
Ego Minis.
Open wide. Don't play with your ego.
Far out. Ego Minis the waffles. Inside your mouth.
Ego Minis, part of this complete breakfast that's made to fit.
In your mouth.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Workman, and this is True Stories from Famous People.
True stories from famous people.
I play Pugsley in the Addams Family Values, and my nickname is Puggy. Puggie. When I was little, I wanted to shave my head bald and see what would happen. My dad took me, and he said it was my hair, so I shaved my head, like Kojak. I ran up to my mom the next day. She just got off the plane. And she was looking for my dad, and she was wondering who the stray kid was running up to her and going, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." And I was hugging her, and she's like, someone lose this child? It's actually pretty fun. I didn't have to worry about combing it. I don't have to worry about combing it with this hairstyle either. Actually, I don't mind this haircut. All the girls rub your head. Now I'm starting to say, rub my head and you make a wish and it'll come true. So, everybody does.
For more
True stories.
keep watching Nick. Whether he's under fire or underwater, he's Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Do not go in there.
Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, February 4th at a theater near you. Ren, Stimpy, and Snick will be back after these messages.
Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society. A whole new season of spine-tingling tales.
On Are You Afraid of the Dark? Only on Snick. From Touchstone Pictures, she's after the man of her dreams. And she won't let the truth
I told him you were my lover.
or her father
Are you out of your mind?
stand in her way.
When I start lying, I can't stop.
Now things are getting out of hand,
He'll think I'm some kind of liar.
You are.
and only her dad can help her out.
You missed him.
I missed him. You.
I love you.
I love you. He's small. I don't think he's buying it.
Gerard Depardieu, My Father the Hero, rated PG. Starts Friday, February 4th at a theater near you.
Tamed by success, the turtles lost their savage edge. Greed is dead. It's a new breed carved from the streets. Concrete fists batter alien flesh, one on one. As power joins forces with rage, ripping through fear, and no one sheds a tear for mutilated mutants.
giant warriors crushed by street tough turtles who have shed soft shells for a hard dose of reality. The Konami's tournament fighters. Why is Nickelodeon the only network for?
There's no need to fear. Underdog is here.
Why is Nickelodeon the only network for?
Why is Nickelodeon the only network for?
Why? This is the only place we want to be.
On Nickelodeon, the only network for you.
Are you tired of having your out-of-town guests sleep on an old, uncomfortable hideaway bed? Northwest Futon has the solution. Our convertible couch package includes futon frame and cover starting at $279, or our slumber bed frame, all sizes, twin, double, queen, and king, for the low price of $79 while supplies last. Add a cozy wool futon during our winter wool sale. At Northwest Futon, we're expecting your unexpected guests.
Bird Boys offers low prices on liquidations and one-of-a-kind closeouts, plus a huge assortment of variety and hardware items for your everyday needs, like 7-ounce boxes of Arm & Hammer Pet Fresh Carpet Deodorizer, only 4 for $1, or Elan Facial Tissues, just 69 cents, and 2 3-packs of Value Bright Standard Light Bulbs are just $1. Our prices speak for themselves. Shop Bird Boys first, 7 days a week, in Vancouver on 4th Lane and in Hazeldale on Highway 99.
And now, back to the glow of the Ren and Stimpy Show.
Saturday night is the best night. Saturday night is great. Saturday night is, it's really happening. It's sick.
When's the last time a squid caused a nuclear explosion? A family drag raced to the Hoover Dam. A 10-year-old stayed up for 11 days. Hey, this kind of stuff happens every week when you happen to be two brothers with the same name. Nickelodeon presents the all-new Adventures of Pete and Pete. At school, on the open road, even in their own backyard.
Let's do it!
Go on the all-new Adventures of Pete and Pete every week. Sundays at 6, 5 Central, only on Nickelodeon.
Whoa, Kellogg's Smacks! I love those featured puffs of wheat. Kitty, take that, kitty. Relish there. Now for those yummy snacks. Meow. Nice driving, Captain Kitty.
Yes, let Kellogg's Smacks be part of your complete breakfast.
Who's there? It's me, Rocky D, with Brock's Rocks. The cool, chewy, fruity candy that gets you rocking. 1 free in specially marked boxes of Kellogg's Smacks cereal.
Poetry in motion.
Arithmetic is where numbers fly like pigeons in and out of your head. Arithmetic tells you how many you lose or win, if you know how many you had before you lost or won. Arithmetic is 7-Eleven, all good children go to heaven, or 5, 6, bundle of sticks. Arithmetic is numbers you squeeze from your head to your hand to your pencil to your paper till you get the answer. If you have 2 animal crackers, 1 good and 1 bad, and you eat one, and a striped zebra with streaks all over him eats the other, how many animal crackers will you have? If somebody offers you 5, 6, 7, and you say no, 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 and you say nay, 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 and you say nix, nix, nix. If you ask your mother for 1 fried egg for breakfast, and she gives you 2 fried eggs, and you eat both of them, who is better at arithmetic, you or your mother?
If kids like me were running the world, I'd finally have my own room, and no one but my friends would be allowed to come in, because I'd have a special lock put on my door. I'll have a super advanced chemistry set that I'll use to fix the ozone layer and to cure that thing that happens to your head when you eat ice cream too fast. And when I'm having a Big Mac attack, I'll just go downstairs, because I'm having a Mickey D's built on the back of our house. Then me and my friends could act totally goofy whenever we want.
Jonathan Edward Moore, pipe down or you'll be sent to your room.
Excellent. Hey, it could happen.
Nix for you today, tomorrow, the day after that, for Labor Day, Groundhog's Day, on Washington's birthday, on your birthday, on Mother's Day, Father's Day, stay home from school sick day, on Thanksgiving Day, the first day of spring, on a snow day, on Memorial Day, stay home from school when you're not really sick day, on Valentine's Day, on a summer day, on Columbus Day, but not on April Fool's Day. Just kidding. Nick is every day.
tremble.
Talofa Pago, mother beaches. Oh, hello, people. Yeah. Man, that gets me every time. Every time I see that. And I forgot to play it yesterday. I was running late every single time. I was pulling a Dr. Lewis every single time that I was going to go live yesterday to stream that trial. But listen. So we're following this trial. Those of us who have been following this trial know and see that the defense. Okay, so Letitia Stock's only defense, Letitia Stock's only defense is that she suffers from dissociative identity disorder, which I find really funny. Sorry, I got to mess with my lighting here. There we go. Her defense is that she suffers from dissociative identity disorder. And it's real convenient that her defense comes up with this at the last minute. She's going to plead not guilty simply because she doesn't want to take accountability. Those of us that have been following this trial, following it closely, know we know because the prosecution has presented a hell of a case. We know that her defense is bullshit. So we're talking about just a hateful piece of shit who decided to destroy the hearts of Gannon's loved ones by brutally murdering him. This is not a nice person. This is not a misunderstood person. Maybe in the sense that none of us can relate to somebody who can do something so horrible, but mostly just because, I mean, I'm supposed to feel sorry for someone who somehow finds a way to murder an 11-year-old, a defenseless 11-year-old boy. I'm supposed to find some sort of empathy for somebody who murders an 11-year-old boy and then refuses to take accountability for it, refuses to say it was wrong, refuses to even apologize to the family, decides to plead not guilty and create a circus of a trial where she has no respect for the proceedings at all whatsoever, and she's giving middle fingers, and she's I'm supposed to think that this is just, oh man, poor lady, she must be suffering from a mental health ailment. Fuck that. Fuck that. Now this Dr. Dorothy Lewis, who is supposedly the defense's ace in the hole, right? She's hired by the defense to evaluate Letitia Stout. What she does is, in the evaluation, she has not only Letitia in the room and herself, but she also has a police officer, okay, but has Letitia's attorneys present, and she says it's because it's for her own protection, even though there's a trained police officer whose job is designed around protecting people. So I'm going to read now. I'm going to read. I have my opinions. I'm going to save them till after I read this article. Somebody commented, and I can't remember who it was, but thank you, whoever you were, for commenting and referring me to this article. And this is an article written by Dr. Lewis's peers. See, I'm not going to pretend to be I don't know anything about mental health. I'm not a trained professional in the slightest bit. But I don't think at this point that it takes a trained professional to know that that Letitia Stout's defense is complete and utter bullshit. But I'm going to read this article here. And this is from November 30th, 2020. And it's titled "The Disappointing False Dichotomies Behind Crazy Not Insane," which is the HBO documentary that features Dr. Dorothy Lewis. And really, it's just designed to it's designed to entertain like anything else, but it's designed to entertain using big serial killer names and the controversial diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder, where it's dramatic. Let's face it, it's dramatic. Whether you're faking or whether you're actually diagnosed with this ailment, it's what she features here, what she shows as examples of the work she does is absolutely dramatic. And it's a joke. It's a fucking joke, in my opinion. So it says the HBO documentary promotes public misunderstanding of criminality and DID. HBO recently released the documentary Crazy Not Insane, featuring longtime forensic psychiatrist Dr. Dorothy Lewis and her theories of the origins of criminal behavior. This issue is a deep and fascinating topic for most people because it gets to the core of what constitutes good and evil and whether people are always culpable for their behavior, especially when it is grievously harmful, such as murder and rape. The fascination with these core questions about human nature and behavior is also probably why there is a huge cottage industry for crime-related entertainment. Forensic psychiatry is a subspecialty in the field. Often now, I want to give a disclaimer here. This is written by likely a licensed mental health expert, and I have a GED, people. So some words are going to be out of my vocabulary. I'm going to do the best I can. U.S. Air Force Monica. Now, I'm lucky I saw that because I'm streaming this on my phone, so I can kind of glance at chat. But if I miss a super chat, I apologize. USAF Monica. She probably had a little of that 97% THC vape here in Colorado Springs with her son for altitude sickness. The marijuana products in our state are potent as fuck. Yeah, I know. I know. Thank you. I appreciate that. Forensic psychiatry is a subspecialty in the field, often focusing on criminology and the application of scientific and clinical expertise to legal contexts. The competency to stand trial is one issue that forensic psychiatrists often evaluate as part of a prior legal precedence in the United States that affect punishment depending on the ability to distinguish between right and wrong when committing a criminal act. These professionals often weigh in on the famous not guilty by reason of insanity defense for criminal offenders. It remains a centuries-long philosophical and scientific debate over nature versus nurture when regarding people's culpability of their behaviors and whether people deserve to be labeled as evil or criminal when they kill or harm others, or whether there is more complexity to what leads to crimes. Psychiatrists still struggle amongst themselves to quantify and understand biological determinism versus situational influences when diagnosing and treating their patients. Sometimes the debate causes official dichotomies within the field's practitioners who tend to align their views one way or another for various skewed reasons, including oversimplification, ease of research, self-promotion, financial incentives, and more. This article is written by Jean Kim, medical doctor, culture shrink. Sadly to me, she says, Dr. Lewis, despite her supposed years of expertise and prestigious affiliations, does not demonstrate a deep awareness of the complexity of psychiatric nosology or forensic diagnosis in this film. Okay. Remember, this is written in 2020, and this is basically a licensed psychiatrist view of the documentary that Dr. Lewis is featured in. The movie tries to paint her as some sort of misunderstood pioneer, quote unquote, who is ahead of her peers in understanding criminality. But this portrayal is questionable. The documentary focuses on Dr. Lewis's background and her own psychological theories of criminal behavior stemming from her past clinical experience. Her main premise is that most murderers, including serial killers, suffer from childhood trauma, abuse, and neglect, which in turn causes many of them to develop the controversial diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder, or DID, formerly known as multiple personality disorder. She views the murderous and violent parts of these people as a split identity they possess as sort of defense mechanism, and questions their true culpability in their crimes as a result. While she agrees most serial killers are a danger to society and must be locked away to protect people from the uncontrollable impulses, she strongly feels the death penalty is cruel and unjust for their behavior, even liking even likening it to burning innocent, misunderstood people accused of witchcraft at the stake. Yeah, wow. The film features several clips of interviews illustrating her point of view, but to my own professional eye, these clips often sow more doubt than support for her claims. She discusses one murderer who had visible abnormalities on potentially key brain regions on neuroimagining. There is compelling argument for considering the contributions of pre-existing neurobiology to criminal behavior, with a significant body of research to date indicating genetic trends in antisocial behavior and differences in neuroimaging and serotonin modulation in studies of criminals. But she doesn't seem to incorporate those crucial biological findings much and focuses more on her clinical interview, where she seems adamant that he is exhibiting different personalities at different moments. During another interview with a man who stabbed his partner, she seems oddly naive, almost trying to become buddies with the rather dramatic patient, who seems extremely suggestible to her whims that he may be exhibiting different personalities. She's talking about Max here. She notes another patient on death row who committed a crime while a teenager is psychotic and hallucinating before her eyes and shifting between personalities. When to me, he just seems cognitively slowed and willing to tell her what she wants to hear, and did not appear to be actively hallucinating. She and a neurologist colleague she partners with seems all too eager to dismiss other realistic possibilities like secondary gain through an insanity defense, or the frequently manipulative and lying nature of people with severe antisocial personality traits. Great point. Overall, she comes across as ready to shoehorn all these people into her core theory. Read DID, even Ted Bundy, her star interview, and the movie's climax. Oh, man. I love, listen, people, you guys know that I have a massive ego, bro. You know this. So I love when people who are professionals in their fucking field and in their craft validate the bullshit that comes out of my mouth. Oh my God, people, I love that shit. Oh man. Her explanation of Bundy, well known to be one of the most prolific and cunning serial killers of all time, as someone who suffered from childhood abuse and DID, seems strained when she argues that his different signatures and letters to his wife and use of different nicknames indicate various split personalities. Now, I want to talk about something real quick that I saw in that. Now, this person is correct. She uses Bundy as a climax to this documentary that is a total fucking fluff job, and she uses Bundy as this. And then what's really incredibly fucking convenient, people, I mean incredibly convenient, dude, is she's interviewing Bundy, and then at one point he says, well, I want to tell you something that I've never told anybody. And then she asks, do you want me to turn off the tape recorder? It's under the guise that she's being empathetic. But I mean, something like this, why would she not want that on tape? Why would she initiate turning the tape recorder off? Unless it's so that she can say whatever the fuck she wants. Because she claims that once the tape recorder is turned off in this documentary, that Bundy has some admittance to having sex with his sister. Okay? Now, there's no evidence that Bundy ever said this to her, because she says, I'm going to turn the tape recorder off. And then conveniently, after Bundy's long gone and dead, and there's an HBO documentary being made about her, well, she gets to say that Bundy says to her that he had sex with his sister. And let's just pretend that he told her this. Let's pretend that that's true. Bundy's a fucking liar. Bundy's a fucking serial killing piece of shit liar who hates women. And he's talking to a woman. He's talking to a woman who is being overly empathetic, and he has to entertain himself in prison somehow, on death row somehow. Why would you believe something like that coming from his mouth? I can tell you why, because you want to believe it. I can tell you why. You want to believe it. It's more entertaining. It does something for you. You know? Feeds that little monster inside you that just is super entertained by sick, twisted shit. And the more twisted it is, the more you're entertained. But the thing is nothing that Bundy says is credible. And then something happens to where I find this really funny. Something happens to where she comes to this, based on this, she comes to this theory that Bundy is a product of incest. And then a DNA test comes back way later and then says that he wasn't. And then the person making the documentary asks Dr. Lewis, "Are you surprised by that DNA result?" And she says, "Oh my God, yes!" With such zeal and enthusiasm. She says, "Oh my God, yes, I'm surprised." Well, I mean, let's just call it what it is. You're surprised at the fact that you were fucking wrong. And I mean, how many times has this lady taken the stand in a criminal case and defended a shitbag murderer? How many times has she done that and then somehow convinced anybody of her science? She's done a terrible job of convincing anybody of the science behind her studies. I mean, she can throw all the word salad together that she wants, but I mean, if you've got a jury full of laymen's, then why is it difficult for you to just simply explain the science behind what you've based your whole career on and make it easy to understand the layman? Because the layman is even looking at it and going, "You're fucking out of your mind, lady. You're full of shit." You're completely full of shit. And I hope you guys are comfortable because this is going to be a long stream. This doctor goes on to say, at other times, her theories seem contradictory and incoherent. She discusses neurobiological contributions to these criminals' behavior, which would seem to argue that their behavior is ingrained to some extent and perhaps not totally their fault in that sense. But then in turn argues that criminals are not born but made. She mentions a chilling anecdote where Bundy apparently threatened a relative with a set of kitchen knives at age 3. An age where one might argue he could not have learned that behavior from anyone. She insists Bundy's grandfather was abusive, but various family members contradict that story. And so she insists that Bundy's grandfather was abusive, but other family members say no. Bundy tells her this. Bundy, the liar, fucking serial killer, right? Right? Now, she claims, and that's another thing that stuck with me, because she claims that at one point Bundy takes all the kitchen knives in the kitchen and sets them up around the bed. At 3 years old, people. At 3 years old. Think about that. Now, a 3-year-old, even if they're the subject of abuse, you know, I feel like that type of behavior takes time to develop. You know what I mean? I don't know. But it feels like at 3 years old, you're just a victim. At 3 years old, you're just a victim and a child who is just trying to cope with being abused. Now, I'm not saying Bundy wasn't abused at that point. I'm saying it's too early for that to be a product of the abuse. In my personal opinion, in my uneducated opinion. Okay? That's all I'm saying. I'm not, like I said, a mental health expert. While there is doubt to me that childhood abuse and trauma can contribute to criminal behavior, with the learning of maladaptive violence and anger, it cannot be the sole cause either. Given that so many victims of abuse and trauma also never become serial killers or even necessarily mean or aggressive people. Also, such trauma and its links to DID are also rare and unique. It isn't a given that everyone with trauma develops anything as extreme as DID, which itself remains a hotly debated diagnosis. Although most psychiatrists agree dissociative behavior, not necessarily discrete personalities, can be a common defense mechanism and form of avoidance against traumatic memories. It is certainly a leap to say that DID is linked to most serial killers and murderers. If anything, their high frequency of antisocial personality traits posts they would be more likely to feign such personalities, either for actual gain or just for its own sake. For someone who has interviewed and worked with so many criminals, Dr. Lewis seems curiously naive about the frequency of broadness of those severe manipulative behaviors, which I and most psychiatrists have encountered very routinely in these populations. She also seems unaware of high sorry, I can't pronounce that word. Comorbidities of unstable personality structure in criminals, leading to histrionic and borderline traits as well, which can be mistaken for supposed DID, which other personality types have traits of unstable self-image and self-esteem, which are indeed tied often to trauma and insecure attachments as children and can lead to mood swings and identity disturbance. But they do not necessarily lead to frank dissociative identity disorder. These individuals also tend to be highly suggestible to outside influences and feeding symptoms, quote unquote, in order to gain various forms of attention, both consciously and unconsciously. Leslie Kohler gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Leslie Kohler. Cocoa Puff, congrats. Sunshine Butter, Dragonfly, Laugh at a Life 2. Nisaba, Mel, Emel, Margot, or no, not Margot, but okay. Congrats to you guys. Thank you so much, Leslie Kohler. Unfortunately, with this very public platform, Dr. Lewis will spread her oversimplified message of the origins of severely criminal behavior as all tragic, misunderstood victims of dissociative identity disorder. While I completely agree with her thoughts that a person's upbringing contributes to their psychological makeup, she splits this factor off into a falsely simplistic relationship between upbringing and behavior. That serial killers all have a particular horrible upbringing and then inevitably become people with dissociative identity disorder. She briefly mentions, but doesn't coherently integrate the possibility of concomitant genetic or neurobiological factors, which also argue against pure culpability, these killers of their actions. She doesn't help assert or clarify that there is a spectrum to the contributions of both biology and environment in these individuals, as well as the types of behavior they engage in. While her core message of compassion for the complexity leading to these killers' behavior and the moral questionability of the death penalty is a reasonable one. Her method of gaining attention for this message may lead to more misunderstanding and confusion about the origins of the criminality she has devoted her career to studying. I think that's very interesting. Now, that's coming from a professional, people. Now, people, you know me. Oh, shit, I'm muted. Sorry about that. Canceled Karen, who I love to talk about. She's a tragedy pimp pioneer. A tragedy pimp pioneer. Okay? So we're going to talk about Canceled Karen.
It's okay to feel sad, sorry, and terrible for what the victim went through, but that shouldn't serve as a roadblock to going next level, to trying to dive into the science behind why these things happen. If you don't care, fine, you don't care. Whatever. I do. I always have. So I urge you, first of all, to watch the documentary if you can. If you can get your hands on HBO, if you have,
I urge you all to watch this documentary as well.
A smart TV and you have the HBO app on there, if you can do a 14-day free trial or whatever, just remember to cancel if you don't want to keep it. Trust me, it's worth it if you're following.
Bro, like she even coaches her audience on how to fucking scam shit, you know? Like, here's how you be a cheap ass while grifting for money. I love it.
This trial, and you want to take your understanding of this case next level. Because Dorothy even says in the documentary,
Dorothy,
that, I mean, she's very open and frank about the fact that she has an agenda of educating the public at large. Because, see, not everybody, she's not going to capture everybody with the documentary. She captured me, but she's not going to capture everybody. But if she testifies at these trials, she's capturing more people. And I really relate to her in that she's had some blunders along the way, as I have.
No, like I see everybody's like, I'm not watching that documentary. Like, I mean, it makes sense to educate yourself, even if it's something that might even trigger or upset you. You know, I mean, I'm not going to tell you, I mean, if it really triggers you and upsets you, then don't watch it, of course. But I mean, it's definitely good insight. You know, like it wouldn't hurt to read her book either. You know what I mean? I haven't read it, but I don't see how it would hurt to understand this person a little bit better.
She's made some missteps and some misjudgments, and she's had some blunders, but she is, in my opinion, a genius. And somebody in the documentary said about her that she really is a pioneer in her understanding of violent crime, particularly in
this documentary is a fucking fluff job. Okay, make no mistake about it.
People,
if you're following this trial, you know that this documentary is a fucking fluff job because you see straight up Ken's Counseling Couch. What's up, buddy? Ken's Counseling Couch is also a licensed mental health professional. He says the glare, according to DSM-5, the 12-month prevalence of dissociative identity disorder among adults in small U.S. community study was 1.5% to 1.6% for males and 1.4% for females. Yes, thank you for that. I actually went over this in my in one of the I would post these stats pretty much in chat myself when I was going over the trial. But thank you so much. And I appreciate you as a mental health professional validating that. Thank you so much.
And she's really a pioneer in how she's trying to help the general public understand. You know, she's not one of these stuffy Yale psychiatrists who thinks that the knowledge should just be all academic and all kept within academia. She wants to impart it to lay people. She wants to impart this knowledge and the love of this knowledge, the love of seeking this type of elevated knowledge when you start getting into the scientific end of things, when it comes to these shocking, what is to us, the average observer, shocking, horrifying. It's the stuff of a horror movie. We can't even conceive of it. And so because it's so shocking and brutal, it elicits in us anger. It elicits in us retribution, a need for retribution, and a need to hate the accused. God forbid you show them any measure of trying to understand them, and the small-minded peasants will come for your throat as they've come.
Okay. Stupid. Listen. Kelsey 206, welcome to Logic. Appreciate ya. All right. Canceled Karen. Listen. All of us are willing to understand more about DID. All of us are captivated by the phenomenon of dissociative identity disorder. It's very intriguing, of course. Kelsey 206 gifted 5 memberships. Karina Lynn, congrats. Sharon, Casey, Cherish, Aaron Cooper, right on. Congrats, guys. We're all willing to understand more. The problem is that you fluffed this woman up. Now let's look at when this video was made. This is an attestament to a lack of any research done by Canceled Karen. So she does this entire live called "Who is Dorothy Lewis? Letitia Stauch's Star Witness?" ? Right? And this was streamed 2 weeks ago. Okay. Now, Dr. Lewis has only started taking the stand this week, right? But this was posted 2 weeks ago. So this is just some insight as to how much Canceled Karen's research goes to, because there's no research. Clearly, she watched this documentary, and this is all the proof she needs of Dorothy Lewis's professionalism.
They've come for mine many, many times. And so she's described in the documentary as a pioneer, and I don't disagree with that. I completely agree with that. And the same gentleman, I believe he was a defense attorney that described her as a pioneer, also said that she doesn't think in a linear fashion. And that's why a lot of people don't understand her. And I sort of laid there with my mouth hanging open. I'm like, wow, that's me. I don't think in a linear fashion. I'm like, wow. And her. And I sort of laid there with my mouth hanging open. I'm like, wow. And I sort of laid there with my mouth hanging open. I'm like, wow.
I'm such a child.
That's me.
I'm
I don't
such
think
a
in a
fucking
linear
child.
fashion
I love it.
at all. And I think a lot of people fail to understand me because of that. And a lot of people make false assumptions about me because of that, because I don't think and approach these things in a linear fashion, as most people do. So for non-linear people, people who think, and non-linear people are generally creative too. And so for people who are
But you're
more
not
linear in their thinking, even if it's
you're not at
been
all
linear thinking that's been imposed upon them, because I'm a hopeful optimist. I think even people who think in a linear fashion can learn to think in a non-linear fashion and think more like Dorothy and I do. I think they can break out of that linear thinking shell. And I think
love
it's a shame
how
that public schools are not.
I love how she puts herself in the likes of this person, which I find fucking hilarious, bro. Like, she puts herself in the likes of a fucking mental health professional, even though Canceled Karen is being sued for fucking $10 million, and her defense was stop harassing me. Like a court order to appear. She was like, stop harassing me. She lost the lawsuit, by the way, guys, by default.
Really encouraging kids anymore to think in a non-linear way. I think when I was a kid in the 70s, early 80s, I did have some teachers. Looking back, I did. And my own mom taught me to think in a non-linear way. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of who Dorothy is. And I'm going to leave up the documentary screen because I really, really want people to see it. But I'm going to be reading from Wikipedia about Dorothy. Her name is Dorothy Ottnow Lewis. And again, she's going to be Letitia's star witness. She is going to be the psychiatrist who presumably is going to be taking the stand for Letitia to validate that Letitia has dissociative identity disorder, dissociative personality disorder.
Bro, let me tell you
She's
something.
going to take the stand, presumably to...
We watched Dorothy Lewis take the stand. Dr. Dorothy Lewis is a fucking quack. And like she always does when she testifies in these things, which is like, what was the defense thinking? Did they do their research on Dr. Dorothy Lewis? Because so far she's got a fucking incredible record. Ted Tech, suck a dick. Here, Ted Tech. I love you, buddy, but fuck you. Now we know that Dr. Dorothy Lewis is a fucking moron because she's proven that she's a fucking moron on the stand through cross-examination by the prosecution. And of course, what happens is people start to go, well, she's just an old lady and you're abusing an old lady. That prosecutor's no, she's up there to be an expert witness and she contradicts herself constantly and she's called out on it. And this woman is on trial for her life for murdering an 11-year-old boy. So, no, I don't feel sorry for this lady at all. All right?
You're lying. And you're a piece of shit.
Exactly.
To affirm this, to say that this is her diagnosis, and then hopefully we get to hear from Dr. Lewis how that applies to all of the things that we saw Letitia doing then up to when she sort of disappeared in the system. Hopefully she will be able to apply that and help us to understand some of the things, because there's no doubt about the fact that Letitia's behavior was off the charts. Bizarre. And we're hearing more of it. We're getting more of a taste of it during the trial in the audios. And Law and Crime has done a pretty good job of pulling out those relevant audios. So if you don't want to go back and listen to every moment of testimony and you just want to hear those audios, you can go to Law and Crime and pull up the audios of the phone calls and the audios yesterday. Disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder. Lewis has worked with death row inmates as well as other prison inmates convicted for crimes of passion and violence, and was the director of the DID clinic at Bellevue Hospital, associated with New York University in New York City. She is a professor of psychiatry at Yale and New York University, and is the author of Guilty by Reason of Insanity, a book she wrote based on research done in collaboration with neurologist Jonathan Pincus. Lewis is a graduate of the Ethical Culture Fieldston School, Radcliffe College, and Yale University School of Medicine. She has stated in one of her books she originally went to medical school intending to become a psychoanalyst. She was married to Melvin Lewis, a child psychiatrist and professor at Yale, who died in 2007. She has 2 children, a boy and a girl. During her research, Lewis concluded that most, if not all, inmates she worked with had been abused as children or had experienced or witnessed potentially traumatic events, including violence. She found that in most cases, both the accused and the family members have been reluctant to discuss the abuse that happened in the past. In many cases, she concluded the inmates had blocked out the memories. In some cases, she was able to find testimony to this abuse as well as corroborating evidence. The corroborating evidence often...
Bro, this lady, what she does is she leads you. Everybody fucking knows what she does. Ted Bundy manipulated this naive old fucking idiot, and everybody fucking manipulated this naive old idiot.
Often included scars said to be from the abuse, as well as hospital and criminal records potentially related to abuse. In many cases, the hospital records of the abuse were attributed to other causes, often accidents. However, the explanations often didn't match the injuries, according to Lewis. She also found that the parents of these children often had the same problems as the children, and concluded they taught their behavior to the children. She argued that they often relied on excessive force to discipline their children and poor judgment, or a recipe for creating a violent person. Lewis has also highlighted, however, the prosecution. And so if you are familiar with me and my 4 years of doing this and all of the cases that I've covered, and what my brand essentially really is, aside from critical thinking, which is talking about early childhood abuse and how this,
shut the fuck
in my opinion,
up.
leads to violent adults. You can understand, you can appreciate that when I read this, I went, oh my God. And watching the documentary, I'm ashamed to admit I've fallen in love with her. I love her mannerisms. I love her intelligence. I love the way she talks.
Of course you did.
The way she gets her point across.
Of course
I
you
love
did.
her compassion, her empathy, her realness, her genuineness. I just absolutely fell in love with her. I identify, I relate. She's my mother in another life because she's my soulmate and everything that she says and practically everything she believes.
Wow.
At least that what she stated in the documentary. It resonated. It was like bingo, bingo, bingo. Oh my God, bingo. Yes! Oh my God. Somebody get And the documentary is very good because it delves into what I've been saying for years about how dangerous small minds are and how small minds are preventing us from progressing as a species. And I think her heart is 100% in the right place. And I agree, she is a pioneer. And she has been treated much the same as I have, except she has a lot more going for her than me. She has the education.
That's true. That's true.
That I don't have. I just instinctually know this. I just instinctually have always known that there is a recipe for creating not only violent people who show a tendency towards violence their entire lives, but also people who repress violence. And it explodes like a volcano. It erupts like a volcano would erupt maybe once or twice over their lifetime. But that once or twice that volcano of violence erupts in them is as unpredictable as a volcano. It's hard to say what the series of triggers are going to be that lead to that violent eruption. And then, of course,
So what we should do is just feel sorry for people who can't fucking control their shit, right?
Have some people that are like Ted Bundy, who, in my opinion, show a tendency towards violence across nearly their entire lives post-puberty. But she gets it. She gets it. So if you're, an audience member of mine, you're in the K tribe, you are
now. Yeah, if you're not aware of the K tribe, Canceled Karen loves to fucking sympathize with perpetrators and blame victims. She's a big fan of it. She's notorious for it. She's infamous for it, to the point to where she had a channel. She had a channel with like tens of thousands of subs. I can't even remember how many, but tens of thousands of subs. And then, of course, YouTube booted her the fuck off for harassing people. And she's also, like I said, getting sued for it for $10 million and just lost. And this is what she's known for, is talking up the perpetrators and blaming the victims.
Are going to want to watch this. Just trust me on that. You're going to come away with it with a lot to think about. It really takes it, like I said, to that next level. Understanding why these things happen is crucial to, if we want to prevent them. Hanky ringing isn't going to stop these. A child is being killed right now. You might not hear about it because the media won't necessarily care, especially if it's a black child.
Wow.
Or an Asian child or a Mexican child. There's a child somewhere, many children right now in America being brutally abused, raped, if not murdered. Many. And the vast majority of them, you won't hear about them because the media decides whether you hear about them or not. So
here's
it's
my
okay
thing.
to care about Gannon, but Gannon's not the only child.
Here's my thing. Like, if you're so concerned about that, why aren't you talking about those cases? You have a channel. I mean, it doesn't have nearly the following that you had before your real channel got deleted, but now you've got this little rinky-dink bullshit. So you're now like, why aren't you using your platform? I mean, you've got it. You get a solid, 1,000 views depending on the content. Right. So, I mean, that's 1,000 people you're reaching right there. Why aren't you, if you're so fucking concerned, why aren't you going over cases where there's a black child who's murdered, or where there's a Mexican child who's murdered, or, Asian, whatever? Why aren't you going over those cases?
Child. And so the hanky ringing and the being upset and the outrage and this and that is not going to stop these kids from being abused. And case in point, one of the men that she has in the documentary, his last name is Garrett. I can't remember his first name. Jonathan, maybe. she took video and audio of the interviews that she did with her case studies, and he told in one of his sessions about being raped as a child and it being filmed. It was his father, and his father invited men to do it to him, and it was filmed. Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm open to believing it's true because we know that it happens. We know that it just recently happened with the 2 gay men in Georgia who adopted 2 little boys and were sexually abusing them and making movies and films of it, or clips, or even selling them out. So we know it happens, right? If there's one, there's many. And so this was a man who became a violent murderer. I think he killed 2 people, and he had this upbringing. He done. This case started to move forward and said, I can offer some expertise here. I think I know what's going on here.
Okay,
Let me sit down.
I'm gonna go over some more of her stuff because I think it's fucking hilarious. Let's go over what her thoughts are on the trial. Now that we know, okay, that was 2 weeks ago, people. Now that we know how Kay feels about this woman, let's go over her
villain,
opinions on the trial, because I find that shit fascinating.
Find a new villain du jour. Gannon is their victim du jour. They'll find a new villain du jour, and they'll find a new victim du jour, and they'll just go to town on it like it's a sporting event. They don't really care about the what's beneath the surface. It's shallow, and they reveal how shallow they are in their commentary.
Okay, here's why I don't care about what you're talking about, because Letitia Stout I don't care how you dress it up. Letitia Stout has shown nothing but evidence to the fact that she doesn't give a fuck about anybody. And it's not because she's crazy and needs help. It's because she doesn't give a fuck about anybody. That's not a mental illness. That's a shitty person. Like, you know what I mean? You know, you sit here and, I mean, where's the line where you start making excuses for somebody who's capable of such a horrible crime? You know what I mean?
And they don't even, I think, realize how stupid they come across. She's not, I know, it's disgusting. I won't even go read them, Lisa Hunt, because I don't want to get that angry. I don't want to get that.
Now
triggered.
You hear that name?
I am so excited that I found her.
Lisa Hunt. Okay. Lisa Hunt came into my chat and she was saying that she has DID, which maybe she does. I don't know, but I find it unlikely considering that only 1.5% of the entire population on the planet, the global population, is known to have this diagnosis. And most psychological circles question its validity at all. They're like, it's bullshit. You know,
Found her because as somebody who I, of course, do not have anywhere near the education, qualifications, credentials, experience, nowhere near that.
Let's talk about
that she is. She is a goddess.
Let's talk about she's a goddess. Let's talk about Dr. Dorothy Lewis's experience, because so far what we've seen is just her not knowing what the fuck she's talking about. Her experience is self-contradictory, constantly, consistently. The only thing consistent about Dr. Lewis's experience is that it contradicts itself. Her findings constantly contradict themselves. And the prosecutor pointed this out.
Yes, she is a genius. What I do have is a passion to understand, a passion for understanding why these violent, bizarre, perplexing, violent incidences, to include mass shootings, to include serial killers, why they occur. And she has that passion as well. And she's my hero in that she took that passion and she applied it to academia in a way that I'm not even sure academia probably even appreciates that she's done. But she's taken that passion and her genius and she's applied it in an academic way, because I believe the ultimate goal for her is the same: make society a safer place, make society a better place. We have less.
How is making excuses for these people on things that are untreatable, such as psychopathy? How is making excuses for someone with psychopathy making the world a better place, making it safer? How is that happening? Because I don't buy that shit for a second.
See, the peasants, these scuzzballs who are commenting over on Law and Crime and bashing her, they don't want that. They want there to continue to be these horrific tragedies and violent events and child killings, and because they are addicted to it. It's all about what they get. What? The endorphin rush and the chest beating and the self-righteousness and the hating of a villain. They get to demonize someone.
Fuck yeah.
And they get to sanctify the victim.
Fuck yeah. We can't sanctify a victim. We can't sanctify an 11-year-old innocent boy. That makes us shitty people to just simply point out the fact that he's 11 and he died because somebody was shitty in his life. What? What?
And demonize the person who killed them. That's what they live and thrive on. It's a soap opera to them. That's about how deep they go. Whereas and that's why they can't identify with Dorothy, because she's so much deeper than them. She's so much more intelligent than them. She's so much more of a consummate intellectual than them. She is completely out of their league. She is out of this prosecution. She's out of the defense attorney's league. She's in a whole nother stratosphere. And she's onto something. And her work wouldn't be as needed and sought out if she wasn't onto something.
Excellent point. Now, Ken's counseling couch is fantastic, by the way. He's a mental health professional. He says, the glare, it's funny she mentions the gay couple sexually abusing their kids, but completely ignores a huge issue with single mothers who let their boyfriends, quote unquote, use their kids to keep the boyfriend. I think those of you who have been following me for a long time know exactly what Ken's referring to.
And what she's onto is learning, researching. You can't do that if you have a pitchfork in your hand. You cannot learn if you're running around screaming about what an evil demon witch.
Well, here's the thing is we were all waiting to learn, but she just kept everybody waiting because, she has absolutely no respect for court proceedings. So we were all waiting, and then she failed miserably while on the stand in cross-examination. She failed. She failed while the defense was questioning her.
Letitia is. You're not going to learn anything if you do that. And that's fine if you don't want to learn anything. That's fine. If you just want to be a part of the soap opera brigade, find a villain to hate and a victim to sanctify, that's fine. Go do that. I don't want it around me. And I'm sick of seeing it. And I don't want any part of it. And that's unfortunately 90% of the true crime community on social media.
I'll tell you why 90% of the true crime community want to villainize a villain and sanctify a victim is because when a victim is innocent, we want justice for that victim. And when there's someone who costs that victim their life and costs the world what that victim could have possibly contributed to the rest of society, we're angry. We're angry as citizens. We're angry as members of this society. I'm angry about the fact that Gannon was a very loving, caring person who, Lord knows what he could have contributed to the world. We're talking about a kid who was supposed to be dead. We're talking about a kid who was born so premature that he only weighed 1.5 pounds when he was born. Doctors said he wasn't going to make it. Doctors said he was going to be disabled his entire life. And none of that happened. The only thing that cost Gannon his life was Letitia's psychopathy. her lack of any respect or empathy. That's what cost Gannon his life. So no, forgive us if in the true crime community, if we want to see justice for this child. Forgive us for calling a spade when we see an evil person. We someone who does evil things is by definition an evil person. If somebody commits murder, guess what? They're a fucking murderer. If somebody commits rape, they're a fucking rapist. Period. I mean, there are things that can be justified through psychological explanation, through explanation that there's some sort of psychological issue going on with them. Everything is psychological. Whatever the brain works, and anything involving any behavior, there's a psychological explanation for it. But it doesn't mean that someone should be excused for their behavior based on that. Because if you're simply capable of knowing that what you did was wrong and you did everything you can to cover it up, and you're still doing everything you can to avoid the accountability for it by putting the parents through more trauma, by pleading not guilty with a bullshit excuse, and the only person that can validate that excuse fails to validate it miserably while on the stand, fails to validate it by even conducting an ethical and thorough analysis. She had her attorneys in the room. She had her son in the room. And she doesn't even have enough respect before she sits on the stand to fail in establishing any validity behind her studies and behind her diagnosis. She's late to even do it. She's late to even do it. Corvette Sally, thank you so much. Thanks for doing what you do. You're doing a great job. Thank you so much. That means so much. Thanks so much.
Yeah, period. Very few are able to take this unemotional clinical approach to it that is so necessary to learning how to prevent these things from happening again. How do you prevent? You prevent with early intervention, whatever that may look like. You prevent with understanding.
She keeps talking and using that fucking lame excuse. Because I understand trying to understand something to help avoid things from happening. But the problem is that you can't, unless you're violating someone's rights, you can't lock them up before they commit a crime. And the thing is when somebody's an adult, incapable of knowing the difference between right and wrong, and you know this because they're constantly lying, they're doing fucked up shit to people and then lying about it on a constant basis. These are people who are not capable of accountability. These are people who you cannot count on to do what any adult would do when they're sick, is go and seek help and try to fix it. She can't be counted on to do that. Now, I understand, if somebody is like, well, I have these thoughts of murdering and I have these thoughts of raping, I shouldn't be, like Edmund Kemper, someone who actually committed all of these horrible crimes, pre and post-mortem, raped women, someone who is significantly more intelligent than most people. And that's all you have to do is listen to the guy talk. The police probably would not have caught him. And he turned himself in. And he turned himself in for one reason. Because, well, two reasons. He committed the crime that would complete his cycle that he had in his mind. He was done. He was finished. And the other reason being, he knows that it's wrong to kill people. He turned himself in because he actually knows that he doesn't even feel remorse, but he knows it's wrong to kill people. So he knows there's something wrong with him. He knows that there's no fixing him. So you better lock me up and keep me locked up, because if you let me out, I'm going to kill more women. This is what Edmund Kemper has said. This is why Edmund Kemper is locked up, because he turned himself in and said, I'm going to do this more. If you don't lock me up, throw away the key. And he does the best that he can. You know, he records audiobooks for the visually impaired, and he makes coffee mugs. That's what Edmund Kemper does with his time now. And this is a man who's extremely intelligent, and he will say, yes, this what I have is a psychopathy, but it can't be treated. If you leave me, if you put me in a position to kill people, I'm going to kill people. If you put me in a position to kill women, I'm going to kill women. And I'm going to rape them, and I'm going to post-mortem violate their bodies and their corpses. This is what he says. So he is living proof that someone capable of horrible things can take accountability and take the steps to avoid having to do this again, even if they've already done it. What she's spewing out here is absolute bullshit.
Not by hating. You cannot change what you don't understand by hating it. You change what you don't understand by being willing to examine and research it. And this woman has put the hard work in it. She has skin in.
Well, see, here's the thing. She's put the hard work in it so far, but really what she's put hard work into is promoting herself. That's all she's really done. She records dramatic interactions with murderers, and then capitalizes off of it by writing books and documentaries being made about her. That's all she does. I mean, because nobody in her field gives her any respect. Nobody does. Nobody gives her any. I mean, these are her colleagues. If she was onto something, do you think that they're just doing it because she's a woman? No. That's not the case, because there are women in that profession that are highly regarded and respected, and they even look at what she's doing. That article that I just read was written by a woman. You know, so I don't want to hear the excuses. The reason being is because she misuses her title and her credentials to validate the crock of bullshit that she spews out and puts out into the world. I mean, that's in a nutshell what she does, and the evidence dictates it.
She has real skin in the game, unlike the peasants and the peons who are bashing her. They don't understand her, so they hate her. It's small-minded, it's simple-minded.
I don't hate anybody. It's
truly beneath everyone, because look, I don't
hate anybody. Do I think that what she's doing is shitty? I mean, she knew that she wasn't going to. She knew she was going to get destroyed on the stand by the prosecution. You know how I know that she knew that? Because every other single fucking time that she's ever gotten on the stand to testify in a case, she gets destroyed by the prosecution. Like, what she's trying to put out there it never holds up. It never holds up. There's a reason why she's ridiculed and belittled, and it's because she can't prove her own theories. David Berkowitz David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, is an excellent example. Like David Berkowitz, she doesn't say that, but he does say she should be where he is. In part, he says that for the what he deserves aspect, but he has also said he can't say he would not do it again, right? And he also made up. David Berkowitz was known as the son of Sam because there was a dog named Sam that would bark and bark and bark, and then eventually he allegedly what he would do is he would interpret the dog's barking as messages to murder people. He later on admitted that was a bullshit story. He just wanted to troll the public because he was famous. He got off on fucking with people. He admits later that he faked it.
I don't have any degrees in anything that she does. I'm by no means an expert. I have one scintilla of the education that she has and the experience and the research that she has. And I'm willing to sit back and learn. What she did today was a free, she essentially gave a free lecture, and people want to beat her up over it. Bash her, ridicule her. Snake oil salesman? Really? No, you idiots. She's trying to explain to you what the research
I think I'm the one who said snake oil salesman, and she's reacting to me calling her a snake oil salesman. And I stand by that. She's absolutely a fucking snake oil salesman. And she's not on the stand, by the way, you idiot. She's not on the stand to give a lecture. She's on the stand to testify what her findings are in her evaluation of Letitia. And she failed to do that with consistency and with any foundation. She absolutely failed to do that.
Community within academia is doing to get to the bottom of these stories so that they can form a better understanding of humanity. She's a modern day Freud. She's a genius. And she's on the right track.
Oh my God.
100% on the right track. Now, let's get into the day's events because I've got a lot of ground to cover and I want to get through it because I don't want to be here till 2 a.m. So first up was Rhonda Niederhauser. She works at Fort Carson. She's a clinical psychologist. She has her doctorate. Again, she's very educated, very learned, and I liked her immediately. She sees people with depression, anxiety, adjustment disorders. The clinic that she does is for dependents of military personnel. She doesn't see the active military member. She sees their dependents, their spouses, and their children. She met with Letitia on December 5th, 2019 and December 13th, 2019, which was just a month before Gannon's death. She works as a behavioral health consultant, so she works with primary doctors. T was having
nobody gives her respect.
She was having constipation issues.
In her circle of colleagues, nobody gives her respect in her profession.
And based on the anxiety.
There's a reason for that. There's a reason why an entire circle of educated people do not find any validity in her theories
surrounding those constipation issues. She was sent over by her primary care physician to see Dr. Niederhauser. She met with Letitia for around 30 minutes. She diagnosed her with generalized anxiety disorder. And she said she doesn't prescribe medications, but she will make recommendations to the primary care provider on some medications to try. Letitia had stated to her that she was being harassed at work because she stood up for someone else who was being harassed. And that was part of her anxiety that was going on. And Letitia ultimately decided to leave that job and cited the stress and the harassment when she went in to see the psychologist. So the job required a doctor's note from her to let her out of her contract. She then contacted Dr. Niederhauser back again, and Dr. Niederhauser seemed happy to write her that note. And the prosecution then took over, and they kind of went over some of the forms that she used. They went over Letitia's symptoms, which were she wasn't sleeping well, she had anxiety, but she wasn't. When someone connected with Letitia, or Letitia connected okay with her, her insight was intact. There seemed to be no delusions. Her judgment seemed normal, and she didn't find any reason to believe Letitia was psychotic or a danger to herself or others. And then she kind of went into how she had a lot of experience in placing people on what's called an M1 hold and placing people on like emergency commitments from her time working at Memorial Hospital. So just to kind of establish, she knew how to recognize if people needed an M1 hold, and she knew sort of the process about going about doing that. And then up comes Dorothy. And I can tell you from my 25 years of working in long-term care settings, primarily, because long-term care settings now can include people of all ages. 30, 40 years ago, a long-term care setting or a quote nursing home, well, they used to call them convalescent homes. They were primarily the elderly, and occasionally you would have someone that was severely multiply impaired. And I can tell you over the course of my lifetime, I mean, I've been working in the long-term care setting since I was 18. I got my first job in long-term care on my 18th birthday. That was how committed I was to working with the elderly.
Nobody gives a
I can tell you that
lady.
Dorothy is aging, but her brain don't show it. Her brain clearly, physically, because she's in a wheelchair and she had to be assisted up into the witness box. But as so happens with many people, it's either the brain or the body that goes. Rarely do you see both. The brain and the body goes. Generally, you see people that are very mentally intact and acute, and they're just, absolutely falling apart physically. And you'll see people who are just physically
totally
at their A game, but they have dementia, right? Rarely do you see both.
Wait,
in long-term care setting.
Are you giving excuses for this lady? Are you saying that she's senile? She's your fucking hero and she makes perfect sense, and we're all trashing her because we minimized her lecture that she gave on the stand. She's not there to give a fucking lecture. But now, are you making excuses that she's fucking senile? Are you kidding? Like, so what good is her fucking lecture if she's fucking senile?
Setting. Dorothy is getting older, no doubt about it, but it has not clearly affected her intellect. She is on it. As I said, in my opinion, she is a genius. And even though she's getting older, that has not affected her genius. And what have I learned in the long-term care setting? I have learned so much from the elderly and people who are getting up in the years, who have 3 and 4 times the life experience that I had. As I said, I got my first job on my 18th birthday because I wanted to immediately begin working with people who are 80 and 90 years old, because I wanted to connect with them. I wanted to hear their stories about what life was like 80 to 90 years before that. And that would have been the turn of the century, because I turned 18 in 1990. So I actually
shut the fuck up.
You're just so wrong. You're so pathetically wrong about this passion. And those years that she has and all of that, that's not to her detriment. That is 100% to her benefit and our benefit that we stop. So all y'all who think you know better and you're over there on Law and Crime and whatever channel or whatever, and you're bashing her, you're just so wrong. You're so pathetically wrong in how you're bashing her. And at times, the way the prosecution was handling her when they were trying to spar with her, why would you do that? Like, I would never go sit down. And I've had some extremely intelligent patients whose bodies were failing them. As a matter of fact, I had a neuroscientist who was a patient whose body was failing him. I've had many, many patients. I would never sit and try to spar. I get that this is his job, but you're also dealing with a woman who surpasses you in this capacity. Why would you try to spar with her over it? I just don't think that that's going to set well with the jury. The jury is going to see that this woman is frail.
Did you read the jury questions? Did you see that shit? Is that supposed to be fucking funny? The jury totally challenged her validity. They totally did. That shit's incredible to me that she's sitting here acting like, wow.
She's getting older, but no less wise and no less a genius in what she's devoted her life to. I think it's going to backfire the way they treated her. It triggered me and it bothered me, because I'm imagining that he's because of how he was harassing her, and I'm going to get into it. It just was stupid. It was petty, stupid crap. And I just had this overwhelming sense of dread that if she's not handled correctly and she's not able to do this, to educate the public in this way, because how else can she? I mean, I don't know, unless you're going to sign up and go to a seminar or lecture of hers. If she's not handled correctly, the beautiful opportunity of this, the chance that we all have of taking her knowledge and her wisdom and her research and this groundbreaking information that she is pulling out of her research, if we don't take this and apply this in all aspects of true crime, we are the losers for that. She has been described as a pioneer for a reason, because
no, dude. Like, that one dickhead described her as a pioneer, and you're describing her as a pioneer. And neither one of you fucking idiots have any fucking validity. You have no stake in the game. The only people that have described her as a pioneer are fucking idiots, morons, people who aren't credible. What are you talking about?
Pioneers do. They ventured into uncharted territory fearlessly and learned what they learned and learned to survive within that uncharted territory, and not only survive, but learn from it to pass down that information. And this is exactly what she's done. She's gone into this uncharted territory of learning about these horrific, violent crimes, these perplexingly horrific, violent crimes, in an attempt to discover what is the catalyst for them, what truly are some of the underlying reasons, and can they be mitigated to keep society safer. I don't know why anyone would not approve of that. And I think if she's not handled correctly, by both these sets of attorneys, because I'm disappointed in them both today. If she's not handled correctly and this isn't done in the right way, we will be the losers for this. This is an opportunity. This is a golden.
Bro, this is not. Listen, we're not here to learn shit. We're here to get justice for an 11-year-old boy who got murdered senselessly. We're not here to fucking learn about DID. You know what I mean? Like, and here's the thing: is she failed to do it. She was put in a position. Here you are. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, canceled Karen, that you're correct. That we have this golden opportunity. She was set up to educate us, but the problem is that she contradicted herself constantly, and then you're sitting here whining about excuses, you know, as to why she failed to do it. She was put in a position to educate us all. She failed. What the fuck are you talking about?
Golden, beautiful opportunity for us to learn. So I'm cringing and wincing at seeing her being shut down in any way. And I'm going to take that a step further. I'm sold on Letitia being psychotic. I think
we're
Dorothy,
all sold.
In the way she explains it, it's hard.
We're all sold on Letitia being psychotic. The problem is that being psychotic is not an excuse for murder. Being psychotic does not excuse her. She's absolutely psychotic, but she needs to be locked away because psychopathy is not an excuse for murder. Borderline personality disorder is not an excuse for murder. The law just doesn't see it that way.
Hard to argue the rationale of it and the reasonable nature of what she's saying. I'm sold on it. So I am deeply disappointed the medical tests were not done, but I'm going to take that a step further and I'm going to say, I hope that the jury finds her not guilty by reason of insanity so that she can be studied. And there's a part of me that thinks that Dr. Dorothy is guilty by reason of insanity, but I'm going to take that a step further and I'm going to say, I hope that the jury finds her not guilty by reason of insanity so that further, and I'm going to say, I hope that the jury finds her not guilty by reason of insanity so that further, and I'm going to say, I hope that the jury finds her not guilty by reason of insanity so that she can be studied. And there's a part of me that thinks that Dr. Dorothy is doing that for this reason, because if Letitia is not found not guilty by reason of insanity, she's going to be lost in the system. She's going to be shuffled away and lost in the system.
No, she's going to be justifiably punished for murdering an 11-year-old boy. And her motive is simply that she just didn't, that she was jealous of the ex. Her motive was that she lacked gratitude for the life that she had. Like, it didn't matter whether or not she had a job in the education system. Al would have still supported her. You know, like, this is a woman who didn't appreciate what she had. Simple. That's.
And it will be harder and harder for these experts and researchers to properly do their work and study her. And that will be yet another missed opportunity. So if she's not handled correctly, and this case is not handled correctly, we are the losers for that. Society is the losers for that. This is
I love how she thinks that attorneys don't know. Now I'll admit that her attorneys don't know what the fuck they're doing. This was their witness, and all they did was fluff her up, and they sat in on her psychological evaluation by their witness. That right there is a conflict of interest. They should have never sat in there. They should have never been in that room. That was unethical. Period. That was unethical. They did a bad job. The attorneys did a bad job. They shot themselves in the foot. And the reason why they felt the need to sit in the room and interject is because they don't even believe their own defense. Those actions prove that. Because if they actually believed that Letitia is just a sick woman who needs help, they would have just let her do her thing. They wouldn't have interfered. You know, they wouldn't have felt the need to interfere. But they did interfere. They absolutely interfered. That's their own witness. What the fuck are you talking about?
sort of watershed moment, in my opinion, in terms of understanding violent crime and understanding violent criminals and psychotic, and how they correlate to psychotic states. So a little bit about Dorothy. She went to Radcliffe College at Harvard University, graduated with honors, magna cum laude. She went to Yale University School of Medicine. She received a research fellowship to measure an individual's ability to relate to others intimately. That was her first research fellowship. She's done both child and adult psychiatry in medical.
That shit doesn't fucking matter. That shit does not fucking matter if she fails to apply it when it matters. When it means something and she fails to apply it, none of that shit means anything. It means fuck all. It means fuck all what school she went to. It means fuck all what she studied. None of that shit matters if she fails to apply it to why she was called up on the stand in the first place. It means fuck all. Nothing.
Medical school, and she worked with the VA. And when she worked with the VA, she primarily saw men who served in a variety of capacities in the military and for a variety of time periods in the military. And she was asked, I mean, you saw all kinds of things. That she said, yes, I mean, all kinds of things. This woman is a wealth of experience. She has seen a lot of sick human beings.
Right.
And this work that she did was
every colleague in her profession she's surrounded by states that she failed, that she used her education to fluff and make excuses for bad, shitty people. Like, I mean, nobody's denying that there's a psychological explanation for anything. Everything has a psychological explanation. Every action has a psychological explanation for it. Of course, nobody's denying that. What we're questioning is whether or not it justifies a horrible action. What we're questioning is whether or not it can be helped, and it can't. She's not stating her case. She's not defending her studies. She's not defending her she's not justifying her findings. Every method that she used that was brought up by the prosecution proved that she didn't even do the research. So how are we supposed to, when the prosecution proves that she didn't even study the law of Colorado and what is considered insane by Colorado law, when she failed to even know what that is, that right there proved that she didn't do any research. She didn't even care to study the evidence of the case. She cherry-picked what she thought might help her findings. That's all she did. The prosecution proved it. That's their job, is to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. They did that.
Inpatient. And she described them as patients who were at risk to themselves and others. She then did 2 years at the Yale Pediatric Treatment Center. And it was during this time that she would go sit in on child court 1 day a week, the child court hearings, the juvenile justice hearings in New Haven. And these were, as she described it, severely psychiatrically disturbed kids with no services available to them. And she collaborated with the chief judge to create a clinic at the court. And that clinic continues to exist and is continued to be funded today. And if I recall correctly, she said it's the only, maybe, or one of the only. I find that shocking. She said the purpose was to service the court and the families, but also do the necessary research. She worked with a neurologist, social workers, people who worked with learning disabilities. And what they discovered was there was a number of severe disorders within this group of kids. And they studied these kids to see if there was any differences between them and the ordinary kids in the area. And they found clinically significant differences in neuropsychiatric issues. Now, this region at the state of Connecticut, were there. She says, well, this is how I was trained.
When are you going to get to the trial? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sitting here reviewing Canceled Karen, and she's trying to act like she's, you know, like, when are you going to get to the trial? See, you're trying to validate this woman and what happened in trial and yet you haven't even gone over it. You're just fluffing her up.
Trained, and this is how I was educated. And so I went into it, with it, and I learned this was not the case. And I learned to stop in the tracks of that specific thing and relearn it. Take it upon myself to relearn it, to research. And that's brave. Together. And she once again reiterated, children die. And so that less people make their way into our prisons. It's one or the other. So what side are you on? This case is a real defining moment in terms of that. And you need to think about that. Why do you care? Why are you obsessed with true crime? And that's why I say it's sort of a watershed moment, because Dorothy being...
Nobody here is obsessed with true crime. We take an interest in it. And what we're taking an interest in this case is justice for a kid, a defenseless kid who trusted this woman, trusted her with his care and with his life. His father trusted her with the care of his little boy. And you're not going to make us feel feeble or naive for simply wanting justice for this defenseless kid. Like, you're a fucking asshole for that.
Fuck you.
Being on that stand, and I'm gonna cry right now because I feel like it's so brilliant what she's doing. She knows that by being on that stand, she is being a crusader for that latter reason, for being obsessed with crime and violence. She's being a spokesperson for that.
No, she's not.
This is why she does what she does.
No, she's
not.
Because
she is passionate about there being someday an understanding of why, and can it be altered? Can it be prevented? Can it be changed? So there are no more Gannons and there are no more Letitias, or at least less. And you true crime junkies, you're just going to have to deal with, there's going to be less. It's better for society if there's less.
Just a second.
You're just going to have to do no more. And he does, because she is passionate about there being someday an understanding of why, and can it be altered? Can it be prevented? Can it be changed? So there are no more Gannons and there are no more Letitias, or at least less.
Okay, she's referring to, in all fairness, when she says there are no more Gannons, she means victims like Gannon.
You're just going to have to
I'm not unfair, people.
Deal with, there's going to be less. It's better for society if there's less. She took that stand today, and she's going to take that stand tomorrow, and I bet she's absolutely exhausted this evening. She's in a wheelchair, for fuck's sake.
So what?
She took that stand today to break...
Fucking idiot. If she's in a wheelchair, don't sit here and fucking act like, I love that shit. She's sitting here acting like, well, she's in a wheelchair and she took time and oh my God, she's in a wheelchair and she's doing us all a favor by sitting on the, no, she's getting 300 fucking bucks an hour to fucking wheel her ass into the fucking courtroom and get on the stand. And every courtesy was extended to her for being disabled by the court. Well, she thinks she's getting $350. She thinks she's getting $350. It's all up in the air. Let's just say she's getting at least $300 an hour. Okay? But she thinks she's getting $350. And that $350 is what's motivating her to wheel her ass into the fucking courtroom and get on that stand. Not fucking the goodness of not the betterment of society. She's not doing it for that. The fuck are you talking about? Wow.
Bravely impart her knowledge, her research, and to encourage
she didn't do any
people
research
to start looking.
The prosecution proved that she did no research on this case. What are you talking about? She didn't do any research. She's using this case for a chapter in a book. Period. That's it. Because if she actually cared about this victim, if she thought that Letitia Stout was a victim, she would have been more careful about how she conducted this interview. No matter what, she's still getting hers. Whether Letitia goes to a mental hospital or whether she goes to prison, this lady's still getting hers. That's why she didn't give a fuck about her lawyers being in the room. That's why she didn't give a fuck about her son being in the room during the evaluation. She wasn't trying to get an accurate assessment. She wasn't trying to get an accurate diagnosis, because if she was trying to get an accurate diagnosis, she would never have fucking behaved so unethically. Simple. I don't know why you're sitting here acting like she's fucking doing this for the betterment of all of us. It's fucking asinine that you're saying that.
Looking at this a different way. I applaud her for that. I admire her for that. I don't even have words for it. And I was
That's because
angry
you're a fucking idiot
with how she was being handled. So anybody applauding, and this is the best cross-examination since Depp v. Heard.
It's not.
That's why I call it peasant.
I'll admit that it's not the best cross-examination we've ever heard. Because you know why? The best cross-examination isn't even necessary to cross-examine this person. It's not even necessary. A fucking moron could have cross-examined her and pointed out her inconsistencies and the flaws and the holes in her fucking theories. A moron could have done that. There's no, what are you talking about? I agree with you. This is not the best cross-examination ever. Because the best cross-examination isn't even needed for this to disprove this moron.
That's peasant. That's not thinking bigger. That's not thinking more elevated. That's not thinking towards a better future. She also has written chapters in the most relied upon textbooks in the field of psychiatry. And here is this jerk quibbling over her licensure in Colorado and her licensure versus reciprocity. Reciprocity meaning that.
Dude, it's his fucking job. He's not being a jerk. It's his fucking job as a prosecutor to discredit the defense's only expert witness. That's his job. And he didn't fail. He succeeded. It wasn't difficult to discredit this fucking sack of bullshit that's sitting on the stand right there. Thank you so much, Jackie Garnett. We all have skin in the game. We are the society criminals will hurt. Exactly. Criminals should be punished and separated from us, even us peons and peasants. Agreed. Now, here's the thing. And I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's wrong to demand justice. See, here's my thing. I if justice is her going to a mental institution, cool. You know what I mean? But the problem is that's not justice, because she's not a person who feels that she needs help. This is not a woman who's asking for help. Now that her ass is on the line, she's asking for a lifeline. That's what she's doing, because her ass is on the line. She's trying to survive. She's worried about being lumped up with other people like her. She's worried about having to be held accountable for senselessly murdering an 11-year-old boy. And her only lifeline, the person on the stand, failed her. The prosecution didn't bully this lady. The prosecution did their job. Her defense and their witness failed the defendant. It's just that simple.
That 48 states recognize her as competent, and why wouldn't they? If going to Yale and Harvard doesn't make you competent, I don't know what does. If she's not competent, I don't know who is. Okay. And he wanted to sit there.
Going to Yale and Harvard it looks good on a resume, but you know what doesn't? Is failing to apply the education that you got from Yale and Harvard in your work, in your life's work. If you fail to reflect that education in your life's work, then that means dick. It means nothing that she went to Yale and Harvard. Going to Yale and Harvard and graduating, well, that's an accomplishment in itself. But that's all it is if she fails to apply the education that she paid so much money for and spent so much time in her life's work. And then, yeah, like her kids fucking smoking in a fucking stairwell. You know, go outside, dude. And on top of that, rolling up there fucking late as fuck. She probably depended on him to get there. Why'd you even go with him? Dude, you could fucking call an Uber. I was there. I was in Colorado Springs. I called an Uber and got a ride to the fucking airport in Denver. It was expensive, but I got an Uber. And I made my flight. So why the fuck couldn't she make it to court on time?
And quibble with her over why you licensed in the state of Colorado. He's a mouth breather. He really is. He handled her horribly. She clarified that she looked at all of the records in this case, 6 binders full. And she clarified that it was the unusual facts of the case that perked her interest. And I couldn't agree more.
Bro, she had notes that she failed to put into discovery. They were sitting on her lap. She had no respect for these proceedings at all. None. This is an experienced expert witness, and she had no respect for the proceedings at all. That's her. That's on her. You defending her, you sound like the fucking moron that you are. You're just showing everybody how much of a fucking moron you are.
It is what has always piqued my interest. She said basically the way the body was handled after the fact is not what piques her interest. She said there are so many reasons and combinations of reasons for bizarre, violent behavior. That is what piques her interest. And she went over why she likes to have attorneys present so that they see what she sees. She also explained how and why she has the attorney sit, how and why she has them sit so that they don't interfere. And she told a story about that. And you can go back and listen to her tell that story. She went on to explain dissociative identity disorder and explain that it's a continuum of how the human mind works at any given time. And she gave that normal example. So on the normal end of that continuum is when you're driving and you pass a couple exits and then you come to your exits and you don't remember passing the other exits. So you're driving along, say your exit to get off of is like mine is Nipissing. Okay. If I go to Flint to do
Ken's counseling couch is like, I've been looking up this doctor. Everything I'm finding on her so far looks bad. She is apparently leaving out crucial biological issues that could be causes for behaviors. What the fuck? That's insane. Exactly. Nobody in your profession, Ken, nobody in your profession, in her circle of colleagues, gives her any respect because she's completely biased. They call her naive.
To do my big city shopping, I'm getting off at Nipissing, but I'm driving, so I'm lost in thought. I'm thinking of other things, right? I'm thinking about whatever, and I'm missing 2 or 3 exits, and then I go, oh, here's Nipissing. Or my car tells me that it's, or I see a landmark that reminds me that Nipissing is coming up, but I don't remember those other 3. That's a form on the normal end of the continuum of dissociation. And she says we really don't even have a good explanation of the physiology of that. They don't even really understand physiologically or chemically how that happens in the brain, but they do know the cause of when it happens on the extreme end. So when it happens on the extreme end, which is dissociative identity disorder, they have learned through their research that the perfect storm. But as I understand
this is an hour and 38 minutes. I'm already past halfway through and she still hasn't gone over any of her testimony. She's just running her fucking mouth. You know what, bro? Like, seriously, dude. So anyways, guys, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna open up phone lines. Y'all can call in now. How's that? I'm hoping to hear from you guys. Let's I'm gonna open up the phone. Open up the phone, bro. So yeah, call in. I mean, yeah, canceled Karen is notorious for never actually making any sense. She's also notorious for trashing victims. She's also notorious for sympathizing with murderers. I mean, so the number's on the screen. Anybody who wants to call is welcome to call, and I mean anybody. Chloe Jade, member for 1 month. Welcome to Logic. Thank you. I love being here. Thank you. I love having you here. Thank you so much. But yeah, like I said, the phone line is open. If anybody wants to call in, they can. If not, I'm gonna get stoned and watch a movie. Basically. Yeah, I mean, can only people in the US call? I don't think so. $400 plus of you people in here and nobody wants to call. That's amazing. Why is anyone scared to? I don't understand why you're scared to call. Just call. We'll talk. Clearly. Man, I thought I had a chat full of extroverts. What's going on here? I thought I had a chat full of extroverts. You're on. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, Claire. This is Lisa Hunt.
What's up, Lisa Hunt?
Not much. I just wanted to tell you, I know I'm going to get a lot of shit, I'm sure, in the chat or whatever, but, I found you through Burnt Toast.
Okay.
And doing BHB stuff, and, so I subbed and everything, and, been chatting for a little bit here and there, but it really bothered me today when you doubt what my mental health is. I don't think that's a good idea.
I'm doubting.
And that's all. I'm not like arguing with you or being mean. I'm going to stay subscribed, but I'm just saying I don't think that's cool.
What I'm doubting. Okay, she hung up. Okay.
I did not.
Oh, sorry. What I'm doubting is the one spokesperson for your mental health is failing to prove the case. That's what I'm doubting. I'm doubting her. I'm doubting her her ability to simply prove the issue.
Right. Yes, and I understand like people going back and forth with that. What bothered, but when Kay said my name, she said, "Well, Lisa Hunt, blah blah blah," and then you said, "Oh, look, Lisa Hunt." Remember when she was in here, she said she had DID. I don't really know if she I kind of
well, because you were blasting it in my chat, and the thing is one of the things about DID is people don't normally discuss it. People don't normally point it out. So the fact that only 1.5% of the entire population on the planet is diagnosed with this, it makes me skeptical of it, especially if the one person who is speaking on the behalf of this diagnosis fails to make her case properly. I mean, can you agree that she's bombing on the stand, that she completely bombed on the stand?
You know what? I can't really listen to a lot of the, I have to take the trial in drips and drabs because it is triggering for me.
Okay.
So I did listen to the first day.
So tell me a little bit more about if you don't mind. I mean, tell me a little bit more about your.
And you said most people don't talk about it. The thing is I'm 57 years old.
Okay.
And I've literally been through 25 years of therapy.
Okay. So, I mean.
So that's why I can talk about it. It's like the first time in my life that I can talk about it. And I do talk about it occasionally on YouTube, hoping to help other people. Just not even hoping to help other people. But
I want to understand it better myself. I'm curious. I want to understand it better myself. I'm not doubting that it's real. So, but I mean, you have to admit it's a very rare occasion.
Saying that Letitia has it. I don't have psychotic episodes. I've never heard of DID with psychotic episodes. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But yes, I do have, dissociative parts of me that, because of severe, prolonged childhood abuse, when I can't remember who used the word, but, when the abuse becomes intolerable or intolerable to a child, and especially when it's from the parents, which are the people that you rely on to survive, for food, for shelter, to be protected, and that's the ironic thing, is you're not being protected by these people. When it becomes intolerable, that's when you start, your ego or your subconscious or whatever, your brain starts fracturing, because how do you look at this person who's supposed to be protecting you, and some days does.
Okay, and I'm really sorry that you suffered from abuse.
Go ahead.
I'm really sorry that you suffered from abuse. And that's something that I'm very sensitive about myself, and very empathetic about. I promise you that. But you have you have an opportunity here to educate a lot of people on this particular subject. So I was just curious.
And I would love to.
I'm sorry. Oh, you said you would love to.
And I would love to.
Okay. So could you tell us a little bit? I mean, whatever you're comfortable with, obviously. Could you tell us a little bit more about? I mean, as far as the differences, as much as you feel comfortable with, like I said, with the differences in your condition and what you're seeing in Letitia.
I was very upset, actually, to find out that Letitia was going for a DID, not guilty by reason of insanity because of DID, because I don't know that she doesn't, from what she presented prior to Gannon being found, it certainly didn't sound like DID. Maybe she does have it, but I don't think that, to me, she sounds, I don't know what she has. I mean, she's nuts. She is nuts. I mean, the shit she says, the shit she does. I'm quite frankly surprised that.
Do you think she's accountable?
She was prior.
Do you think she's accountable? Do you think that whatever caused her to kill Gannon is treatable and she can be helped?
No, I think she should. No, I think she should spend the rest of her life in prison for what she did, because what she did to Gannon was like, I think, I don't know who said it either, was like savage. I mean,
right.
It was savage. The amount of time that she took, where she burned him and she stabbed him and she cut him and she shot him. I mean, that's fucking savage.
Right.
She needs to be in prison, and she needs to be away from other people.
Well, right. And the fact that she has avoided any accountability for it whatsoever. You know, I mean, I think that in itself is proof that she's horrible. I mean, even Chris Watts pleaded guilty. You know what I mean? So,
right.
You know, why not just plead guilty? You know, you're not sick and you don't need help. But
yeah.
Anyways, I'm going to open the line for another caller. I really appreciate you talking to us.
No problem. I was really nervous too because I don't, I certainly wouldn't come up to argue about anything, and that wasn't. I thought maybe you would think that was my intent, but it's just like, I like listening to different points of view and stuff, and that's why I, subscribe to different people, and I more so like your Betty stuff because you crack me up when you mimic her, her high voice. So that's why I listen to you, and then I hear my name, and I'm just like, oh, come on, man, why?
I mean, the thing
we
is,
all got our shit here, but I mean, and I understand people doubting. I do, because it's Letitia, and that is what bothered me from the beginning. It's like, oh shit, I have this, and now they're going to try to put this on this crazy woman who probably doesn't have it, and then seeing Dr. Lewis, who I do.
So you feel, as somebody who's been,
go ahead.
As somebody who's been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, you feel offended that she's using it as an excuse for her actions.
Yes.
Like, let me ask you this, okay? Because I realize that you're speaking based on only what you're comfortable with, and I respect you for that. But if by any chance you ever lost your shit and murdered somebody, right? Would you use dissociative identity disorder as an excuse?
I wouldn't use it as an excuse. Well, number one, I would never. I think that people with mental health problems, especially when they stem from abuse as a child, you either become the abuser or you become the opposite of the
abuser. Do you feel that being an abused child is an excuse for bad behavior?
I'm sorry?
Do you think that being an abused child is an excuse for shitty adult behavior?
I don't think anything's an excuse. I think, I've done a lot of shitty things in my life.
Right.
I've done
Same
things
here.
that I'm sorry for, but
Same here.
I also have taken accountability for those things, and I've also changed, or made, through therapy and through cognitive behavioral therapy, and, EBT didn't work and DBT didn't work, but, through different things, I've been able to say, oh shit, I did this, I hurt this person.
You
and
through
go back
your
to those
own
people and say, I'm sorry, but I would never hurt somebody physically.
Okay. And you through your own adult making decisions decided to seek therapy. True?
True, but it's almost like drug addiction in that the only reason that I sought therapy, well, I had been in therapy from 25 years old on. I knew something was wrong with me. But when my life hit a quote unquote rock bottom,
okay,
when it was like nothing was working anymore. My job of 20 years as a insurance healthcare person, and my marriage, and, I had kids, and just, like I said, it was hitting a rock bottom. It was like, oh shit, I need help. I really need help. Like, this isn't working anymore. Me trying to hide whatever's going on inside of me is not working. And me trying to act normal is too hard anymore. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I can relate. So, I can absolutely relate.
Right. So that's what made me seek.
Right. And yeah, this channel is really all about that. This channel is really all about that. So
dedicated to help. I'm sorry?
I was saying that this channel is really all about that, is about taking accountability and taking the steps that you need to, as an adult capable of making rational decisions, you make rational decisions and take steps forward to better yourself rather than make excuses for your shitty behavior. That's so I mean, I applaud you for that. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your insight.
And I did try to, you know, if I heard you say something about DID that I thought was wrong, or, you know, if I heard it a different way, that's why I would, you know, chime in the chat. I wasn't, you know, I don't think I was argumentative or I wasn't being a jerk or anything. I was just trying to state things. And then tonight I was just listening and I was like, oh man, I don't know. Because I don't want to cause trouble. I want to enjoy YouTube, you know.
So I'm getting a lot
there
of
are some things that I know about that maybe you don't or other people
well,
don't.
no, I appreciate it. I absolutely appreciate it, but
you know,
I want to ask you because the chat is asking, and specifically Ken's counseling couch is asking because he's a mental health professional as well. I mean, I don't mean as well, but he's a mental health professional. He's him and a few other people are asking if you have alters, if you feel comfortable talking about it. Do you have alters?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have memory?
At this point in time, they only come out when I'm extremely, like, if I feel, if I'm triggered. I hate the word triggered. But
yeah, me too. Yeah. But it's valid. So I said me too. The word triggered annoys me as well because it's just one of those overused. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, but so you do have alters. Do you have memory of when an alter takes over?
Afterwards, not during.
Okay. Well, I don't understand.
So say like when if I'm in a situation, and I can think of one right now like that I'm in, and I get triggered to an alter to take over, I don't, you know, other
Did I say
people have also described it as like somebody. It's like, okay, I'm the driver of my car normally, but it's like as if somebody takes over driving and I'm just watching.
Okay.
And so the person who's driving, like I'm watching what they're doing, but I have no control over what they're doing.
Got it.
And I have no control over their thoughts. They have their own way of thinking and their own way of
So
moving.
you're not aware at the time that you're basically in the back seat. You're not aware that that's happening during, but you have memory of it after the fact. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. And if Ken wants to come up or anybody.
Well, I'm not opening the panel. This is just a call, so I can only take one call at a time, and it's really just so I can respect each person. I don't like to have the chaos of having 100 people talking over each other on here. But I'm going to clear the line. Thank you for your insight. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. I hope to see you in chat in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Take care, Will. Bye.
Bye. All right. Line's open, guys. Anybody wants to call? I know a few people tried. Here we go. You're on. Who am I speaking with?
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, it's Chloe J.
Hi, Chloe Jade.
Okay. So I watch you all the time.
Right on.
I love your insight. I have a lot of thoughts on the trial because I've watched it since day one, and I couldn't believe that they put Dr. Lewis up there. That was like such a train wreck.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I I found it extremely telling.
I felt like they just helped the prosecution so much more, and the prosecution already had so much. You know what I mean? I have to say one thing, that I thought Al, through his phone calls, was so much more patient than anyone else could be.
Yeah, I agree. And I think
if somebody murdered my child, I don't think I could talk to them that way.
Right. I mean, he had the FBI next to him, and he was. I mean, I think we could all probably be surprised what we're all capable of individually.
Yeah.
And
in the moment.
And
yeah.
I think you know, maybe you're not giving yourself enough credit, because if professionals are telling you this is the best way to find out what happened to your child, you're going to do whatever you can, and you'll be surprised what you're capable of.
But Was the last caller Lisa the one that did have DID the other night when we were in the chat about it was Friday night or something about like the Friday trial?
Right.
I feel bad for her.
Right.
And I said that in chat the other night. I feel bad for her, but I have to say that if I suffered from DID, I would be extremely angry for such a malingerer. And I think we've seen that in this trial that Letitia, whatever you want to call her, I don't like to call her nice names, but she has said so many lies. She manipulated so much. She premeditated so much. Look at her Google searches. And then to have a doctor that is really not capable of testifying on trial at this point in time, in my opinion, come up and say those things. If I had DID, which is less than 1% of like the population, it's such a small amount, I would be very angry.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I appreciate Lisa for coming up and kind of giving a little insight.
I do too. That's what I was going to say. I was glad to hear what she had to say.
It was interesting to hear what she said about what her experience is, what she experiences when an altar takes over. So
I watched quite a few videos on DID just to do research, like before we even got to Dr. Lewis, and because I didn't believe it, and I wanted to see like what other people had to say, and the idea that she gave you, or the like analogy of being in a car but being in the back seat and not being in control, it was exactly what I heard on a couple other videos. So like, I respect her for calling and being honest about what she has had to go through, but I would be absolutely pissed off.
I mean, I think she is. I think she is. Absolutely. I'm going to clear the line for the next caller, but thank you so much, Chloe J, for calling.
Okay. Well, I love you.
I love you too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Okay. You're on. Who am I speaking with?
Oh my goodness, you're speaking with Laura, who is also Southwest 4x4 Explorer.
Hold on, I could barely hear you. I got to mess with the sound here. Sorry about that. What in the heck? Yeah, no, I have to okay, hold on. I know what I got to do. I think. There we go. Okay, I should be able to hear you now.
Let's try this. I put you up to my
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is Laura, also known as Southwest 4x4 Explorers, or FW.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember you on Rabbit's panel last night, right?
Yeah, I'm one of her mods. So
Okay.
That's me.
Hi.
But all I'm going to say is the woman ruined her reputation. She's an idiot.
She didn't already. I mean, that's the thing, is she already didn't have one.
No, she did. Come on. You're close to my age. You've got to understand. She was a big deal in the 80s. Big.
Yeah,
Don't tell me you weren't
but
born
I mean,
yet.
what does she base her reputation on? On something that's just going to sell books. It's fascinating. You know, there's a reason why everybody watched Sybil, was because it was fascinating. There's a reason why, you know,
True.
why there's a reason why McAvoy was renowned in his performance in Split. You know what I mean? It's because it's an entertaining issue. You know what I mean? Like, she's going to sell books using that. but she so far has failed to show any real science behind what she believes and what she's selling.
There is no science behind it. That's the problem. And I'm sorry if I am.
Of course there's science. There's science behind everything. That's the whole point behind science. What do you mean?
There's no science to DID. You either can prove it or you can't. And they can't prove it with medical technology, meaning, light one for me too. You can't prove it with an EEG. You can't prove it with an MRI. You can't prove it with a CT. She wanted it, but they didn't authorize it, and they didn't say this because it won't show anything.
Well, I know that. I mean, but that's anything. That's any, like with psychology, you can't, with a broken bone, you could show an x-ray, and diagnose a broken bone. With anything psychological, you can't do that. I understand that. But you can at least break down symptoms and say, okay, this is what we see. And then diagnose it with something with a name, like borderline personality disorder or depression or anxiety. You can look at the symptoms and you can diagnose it. But the thing is the people who tend to, or at least the people she's focused on, who tend to claim that they're dissociative, that they suffer from dissociative identity disorder, they have something to gain by faking it. You know what I mean?
Most definitely. I want to know if you caught the prosecution saying to her, do you have like an affinity for DID? Like, do you go look for it?
Right. That was a great question.
They busted her. I almost lost it and peed my pants because it was so funny.
Well, I mean, I didn't think it was funny that they asked it. I was hoping that they would ask it. I think that it was just a good question for the prosecution because it's valid. There's evidence of it. Her colleagues accuse her of it. You know what I mean? So she's just, she's made a shit ton of money off of it. So anybody who's just hyper focused on this particular mental illness in her profession, they call it that, they're going to shoehorn it into everything that they do, and every person that they can, and in her case, anybody who she can benefit from by writing a book about, or a chapter in a book about, or, you know what I mean? She can
benefit from.
Right. So that's why it's questionable.
I agree 100%. And for anybody who does have mental illness in your chat, I'm sorry if I'm insulting you. I have children that are on the spectrum. I have children that have bipolar. I have another child that's total anxiety. I've got it all. So I get it and I understand. I've even had one that's been essayed. So, there's that. It's not a joking matter, and I don't want anybody to take me that way. But
I don't think anybody did.
Letitia's full of poo. Oh, I can say it on your channel. Letitia's full of absolute shit.
Yeah. Oh my God, damn it! You just cost me my monetization.
I'm so sorry. I'm drinking now.
No, that's okay.
I didn't drink last night. I'm drinking tonight.
I drank last night for the first time since New Year's, and all it did was remind me.
Cup right now.
It reminded me as to why I don't drink anymore, really. So I was just like, oh God, I'm still feeling it. It sucks. Drank a lot of scotch, and so today I'm just going, oh fuck. Yeah, that's no good. I'm gonna get this other call and let you go and clear the line. Thank you so much for calling in.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, you're on. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, it's Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Rachel Lee. I'm sorry, I think I cut out a little bit. What did you say?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay, cool. I just wanted to, I tried calling a bunch of times and I was acting all weird, but I wanted to touch base on something that you guys had just talked about, you and another caller, about how you can't scientifically prove mental health, but actually you can to a certain degree, because empathy shows in the brain, And my personal belief is that a lot of mental health issues stem from the lack of empathy or having too much empathy, where you get like your empaths and all that. They're like hypersensitive people. They could feel a vibe in the room.
I mean, like, I don't think every psychological ailment can be broken down to something that simple as to whether it's a lack thereof or too much empathy. I don't think empathy really, I mean, I think it's a factor, but everything in human behavior is a factor in psychology and any, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's
right. Not everyone. I'm not thinking everything, but a lot of them do stem from a lack of empathy. And like I said, it shows in the brain. And what you wind up with is people who don't fear consequences, you know, when there's extreme lack of empathy, and that kind of just people act on how they feel, where most of us have that filter, like a empathy filter,
right?
Where we're worried about what we're going to do to someone else or what's going to happen to us. But people who lack empathy, they don't feel that. And a lot of people with too much empathy get like commonly misdiagnosed with bipolar and stuff like that. So I just feel like it stems a lot from that. But I think Letitia, she just lacks empathy completely. She looks like that creature from, what is it? Nightmare Before Christmas, like the little kid with the round face.
Yeah.
That's who she looks like, her eyes.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you in her case. She definitely lacks empathy, and you know, there's also a certain delusional level of narcissism in her where she actually believes that she has empathy.
Oh, absolutely.
She actually believes this, and nobody's going to tell her otherwise. I've known people like this. Nobody's going to tell her otherwise. And you know, when you to me, when you're someone and your most significant psychological ailment is the fact that you lack empathy, well then, you know, to me that's your fucking problem. You know what I mean? Like
I know it's a personality trait. Actually,
I'm not gonna break that down to a mental illness and be like, why, poor thing. Like, no, it's been proven that can't even be treated. You know,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's the problem.
Right. So you just lock motherfuckers up who do that shit. Like, especially when they've proven capable of murdering an 11-year-old boy. You know,
that's what I've been saying for years, and just like you're exactly right. If you just throw away the whole mental illness thing and you just look at what scientists
it's a
has shown
bullshit
about
defense.
empathy,
It's a bullshit defense. Like listening to canceled Karen.
It's a personality trait. That's all it
Dude,
is.
right. You know, listening to canceled Karen sit there and fucking make excuses for her behavior is so like her to do that. But at the same time, it's like
she could relate.
Right. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to let people make excuses for I mean, being a shitty person is being a shitty person. You know what I mean? Like there's
That's
mental
how I
illness,
feel.
you know, like there's mental illness and then there's just being shitty, you know, like if you have multiple personalities, right? Because here's the thing is you got Lisa Hunt, for example, who called in. She says she's diagnosed with DID, but even her, she's saying it's no excuse. She knows the difference, because even if an alter were to commit murder at some point, if you were saying that this alter named Maria is capable of murder and who speaks in a Spanish accent or whatever the fuck, you know,
Sanchez,
but you are primarily an empathetic, loving, nurturing stepmother and mother. Well, then that loving, nurturing mother has to take accountability at some point and say, well, you know what? I need help, but I totally did this, but I need help, and I'm sorry that I did it. You know what I mean? That
Absolutely.
She didn't do that until until she ended up with attorneys who were looking to take on a high profile case. and fight it. Now, here's the thing is I don't think that these attorneys encouraged her to, this is what everybody seems to be forgetting.
She had access to the law library, right?
Well, yeah, because she was, I mean, that would have been a shit show if she would have tried to defend herself. I'm glad that she didn't. But at the same time, this is the thing. What you have to understand, what people need to understand is Letitia is simply pleading not guilty because she does not want to take accountability for her actions. Plain and simple. That's it. So it's her right. It's not her attorneys don't get to dictate what she pleads. It's her right, and it's her right to decide whether she wants to plead guilty or not guilty. Simple. Period. That's it.
They just have to dance around it.
So if she decides to plead not guilty, if she simply decides to plead not guilty and exercise her right to do so, and then she exercises her right to an attorney, then her attorney is only going to find the most logical and most possible, the best possible defense that they can, even if there is no defense. I guarantee you that these people would advise her and have advised her, you need to plead guilty because there's too much evidence against you. But since she's adamant and hell bent on not taking any accountability, she pleads not guilty. And so her attorneys, by law and by ethics, have to do whatever they can to defend their client. So they came up with this wacky bullshit.
I agree. She's showing her true narcissism to the very end.
Right.
It's about her, and you're speaking in part to what Critical K was saying, right? With or what do you call her?
Canceled Karen.
Canceled Karen.
Yeah,
sorry, I didn't mean to say her name. But yeah, so she's trying to, what you're saying, she's making excuses, you're not having it. And really, it was like, how does anybody else feel any different, though?
No, and she's kind of Canceled Karen is ironically proof in itself. Like, she is being sued for $10 million and she lost the lawsuit. I don't know if she has to pay $10 million, but she doesn't have $10 million. But she lost the lawsuit, and because she didn't get an attorney because she couldn't afford one, and that's fine, whatever. But she made excuses to not go to court. She did everything she could to avoid going to court. She's doing exactly what Letitia's doing. So that's why she's making excuses for her, because she's doing with her lawsuit exactly what Letitia's doing with this murder case. Yeah,
and she goes way back. Isn't she the one that was like talking to Chris Watts and everything? If I remember correctly,
she never talked to Chris Watts. That's some other idiot. But she would defend Chris Watts, absolutely. Yeah.
But no, she definitely is.
She's notorious for
what
it.
she's putting out. If she has any following that believes anything she's saying,
not anymore.
Dangerous. I don't care if it's one person or 10.
Yeah, that's usually what she has in chat is about 10 to 20 people. But I mean, she's not. Yeah, and that's the thing is, she's not
even believable.
Right. To me, she's just entertaining. Because she's such a fucking idiot. So I like to go over her.
Yeah, she like Betty.
But she's not, she's no longer a threat to anybody because nobody gives a fuck what she's saying. But in a way, she is still a threat because there's still those 10, 20 people that's in her chat that take heed to what she says, like as if she's saying the gospel. You know what I mean? And so, it's dangerous. If one of those 10 or 20 people are teachers or parents, and I guarantee you most of them are parents, it's bad.
But she's encouraging, like you're saying, like making excuses for bad behavior is not an excuse. I mean, for example, I could throw this out there. My mother lived in Florida growing up. Her mother was a hooker. Her father was a pot farmer. Way back in the 60s, my mom was born, and she was her own mother tried to drown her. And her father had to punch her off. And up until not too long ago, she thought her mother was panicking and holding her underwater. But anyways, her mother was abusive. She died young, whatever. But my mother didn't turn around and try to drown me. And granted, she was definitely abusive as a parent. But, just because you have childhood trauma doesn't mean you're going to.
We all have childhood trauma, man. We all have childhood trauma. Like,
absolutely.
I'm not trying to minimize, people who suffered more. Like, I get that there are people who were beaten. I get that there are people who were beaten and people who weren't, but in our own minds, none of us had an ideal childhood, did we? You know what I mean? Like, so where's the line to where we get to use it as an excuse for shitty behavior? You know?
Right. No, absolutely. There's just no reason for it. We could all relate to, like you said, this, you know, some type of trauma that we've had growing up, and it just, there's no excuse for it. At some point in time, you know what's right from wrong. And what she did, literally just, I can't even fathom. I'm a single mom. I've gone through postpartum depression. I've, you know, came out of it, and never once did I take it out on my children because it's wrong. I don't know at what point, like, if she doesn't have that, like, ding, 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 this is going too far, then she can't be among other people, point blank. That's it.
That's what I'm saying is, like,
change.
If you're sane enough to fucking know it was wrong enough to lie about it and try to cover it up, you're fucking guilty.
Exactly.
You're fucking guilty, period. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing to try to understand. Period. You fucked up your role in our society and you need to be removed from it. However we see fit. Now, I'm not for or against the death penalty, but I love being I'm a patriot. I love being an American, and I love that certain states have it and so others don't, because people vote on it. And as members of a society, we get to decide what's justice. Period. You know,
we've lived among people like her, and haven't those people been part of our trauma? You know what I mean? My daughter's father is a classic narcissist, and, you know, like, again, I don't even like using that term because I feel like I'm giving her an excuse for a personality trait, right? But it really is that scary lack of empathy that really, like, you look at somebody with a lack of empathy, you just feel chills. There's nothing there.
No, you know these people. I'm telling you, like, I talk about this all the time. Like, there are people, Betty's one of these people that I promise you, when she walks into a room, you feel the atmosphere change. You can sense the atmosphere change. They suck the energy from everyone in the room. You know?
Deep of joy.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. These are shitty fucking people, dude. These are, you know what I mean? If you're so shitty, like, if you don't realize that you're doing this, you know what I mean? Like, if you can't pick up on the fact that people are just like, fuck, you know, then you're an asshole. You're an asshole. That's not a sickness. You're an asshole. You know, like,
they need to be separated from us. And that's really, I know it's, like, so simple to say, but it's like when people say they all need to go be put on an island somewhere, that's really what needs to happen. Because there's no way that people aren't going to eventually mess up when they're, like, a severe degree of that.
All right, I'm gonna thank you for calling in. I'm gonna clear up the line. Take one more caller.
Absolutely, it was great talking to you.
You
Love
as
the
well.
show. Keep
Thanks
up
so
the
much.
good work with Gannon.
All right, thanks so much. That means a lot.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, lines
Thanks.
open
Bye.
if anybody wants to call. Did I decline the call or what? Amy, thank you for the Cash App. Appreciate it. Wait. All right. Whoever tried to call, try calling again, please. Do you see how Cherry abuses me? I'm going to treat everyone like shit because Cherry's abusive towards me, guys. You're on. Who am I speaking with?
Holy shit, thank you. I'm just listening to this because you know what? Every day I've been watching this case every single morning, and I don't think that lady whoever you had on, I don't know, this Karen lady, she wasn't watching this case. She wasn't watching this case. That's all.
No, she was. That's the thing, is she was. She just thinks that she's going to build. She thinks she's going to build her channel by going the opposition with everything. That's her MO. That's what she's always done.
Because she made it sound like they were attacking this lady. She was 4 hours to 5 hours late.
Right.
The first day that she's supposed to be the star witness of the defense. 5 hours late, and then her son comes in reeking. They knew it was him. He's reeking of marijuana. He's smelling up the entire courtroom. The next day, the Judge Warner asked her,
Colorado's legal, dude. You don't have to fucking. If you're gonna go to court, have some etiquette and eat an edible. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna show up to a fucking court proceeding sober. You know what I mean?
No, I mean,
like, I'm not sitting there all day, all fucking sober. I get it, but I'm not gonna fucking walk in there. I'm not gonna disrespect the court by being fucking high with and smelling like weed. You know what I mean? Like,
he wasn't there all day. He brought his mother in there late. And I'm pretty sure that in her prime, that Dorothy Lewis, I'm pretty sure in her prime, she might have been something. But at this time, she wasn't answering.
Well, she didn't even do any research on the case. Like,
nothing.
She didn't. Yeah, she cherry picked whatever the fuck might help her narrative. That's all she did.
And Dave Young, I haven't seen the defense defend Letitia not one time. I haven't.
Oh, her defense is terrible. That's why is it that the psychological evaluation video was presented by the prosecution and not the defense when it was their witness and it was them who set up the evaluation?
Exactly. Well, they were crossed. I mean, I didn't even. I stepped away for maybe an hour. I came back and expected to see some sort of defending, you know, and then I come back, and then here goes Dave Young cross-examining Dorothy Lewis, and he's like, Miss Lewis, can you just answer my question? It's a yes or no. And then they were,
winded as fuck. Winded answers that went nowhere.
The EEG and the MRI.
Winded answers that went nowhere, because if they went somewhere, canceled Karen would have went over it.
Canceled Karen didn't even talk about the fact that they withdrew the request for the EEG and the MRI. And
she withdrew it. She withdrew
it.
Yeah, but and then she denied. She denied knowing about the email. She wouldn't give a yes or no answer on dude, did you send this email or not? Like, showed her the email. Like, boom, here it is. Like,
and then he said,
"Is that you or what?"
Exactly what I predicted. She was going to have these notes on her lap that we don't even have. I don't know. Did anybody hear this Maria Sanchez come out? I mean, because Dorothy Lewis tried to say that the accent wasn't, a Mexican descent accent. It was more of a Russian sounding accent.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. I'm going to clear the line and take this next caller. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate it.
Okay. You have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
You're on. Who am I speaking with?
Hi. Oh my gosh. All right. This is Elsie.
Hi, Elsie.
And how you doing? I just wanted to let you know that I watch several channels, but I don't comment much. This is really about the logical situation, not so much the emotional, reactions that a lot of parents and moms have. And I'm finally glad that I got to see her live this evening. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. I think most of us realize that Letitia is faking, her
the jury knows it. Look, while I got you on the phone, go ahead and go ahead. I'm going to look this up real quick, and then I'm going to show you, because I didn't see this until today. But oh man.
Yeah.
I went
I'm with you.
over this stuff, or I talked to Cherry about it. But now I can't find it. But yeah,
Take your time. Take your time.
somebody posted, somebody who was in the courtroom posted the juror questions because the sound was gone. So
Right.
but
I remember that.
The
Yeah.
juror questions clearly were just like questioning her validity, you know. And she gave shitty answers. And then, the jury, first of all, they asked the most questions with her than any other time in the trial. They asked 5 different questions.
I hated it when I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear the audio either.
Yeah, we couldn't. Nobody could. But now I can't find the questions.
Do you know the gist of it?
I mean, yeah, and then now I'm looking at them just giggling and laughing at some YouTube video or something, like it's all funny. Yeah, it's just gross.
Are you talking about, you just triggered a point of when Letitia was a little cozy with her attorney to the left?
Yeah, that was weird.
That was disgusting.
Right. And I mean, what I think was going on, because at first I was really angry about it, but then I realized after I calmed down that was exactly what they wanted. They were hoping the jury would see that and be distracted by it and get angry about it so that they wouldn't hear the evidence being presented by the prosecution, the very damning evidence of her Google searches. They were trying to distract the jury, and they did.
That's exactly what I thought. I thought the same. I thought, well, that's not, no, actually it looked worse.
Because at first I was like, I hope the jury sees this. And then I was like, well, once I calmed down, I was like, well, that's what they wanted. They were hoping to distract the jury because the worst that's going to happen is he's going to get a warning from the judge, which I believe happened. While, in sidebar.
The next day, did you notice how far apart they were the next day?
Right.
It was like they both had a plague a little bit, and the attorney to her left by the wall where she used to sit there and huddle over and look like the freaking, what was that movie? The Grudge? She's over there with the hairdo and the Grudge look. And I thought, okay, so something must have been said. It was just, this whole thing has been insane to me because this is an 11-year-old boy. My kids, I have 2 boys, and one is his mid-20s, the other's mid-30s. So they're 11 years apart. And the point is to imagine a stepmother, stepfather, whatnot, to do this overkill of this innocent child who, and then for her to use these personas, personalities, and then the elder doctor, I get it. Yeah, she's older, she's in a wheelchair, blah, blah, blah. But the point is this, she did what she did. And to watch all the BS of her faking it and doing the little hair toss. And then you notice the doctor in one of the interviews, as soon as she did the head, back and forth, she's like, "Are you Maria?" It's like, come on. You can't fool all of us.
Well, that's the thing is they only need to fool one juror, Yeah, but I don't think anybody on the jury's that stupid. Because I think if a juror is that easily influenced, the rest of the jury can have influence over that one juror as well and go, dude, listen, look, she fucking did this shit and she needs to be held responsible. I truly believe that even if there's one juror that's shaking their head going, I don't know, there's the other 11 people that are like, listen, we need you on this and you need to right. So I don't think it's going to take long to deliberate at all.
What is your bottom line? Do you feel she'll be found guilty? And that's not a stupid question.
Oh yeah. I think for sure she'll be found guilty, and I don't think that the jury's going to take long to deliberate and come to that decision.
Well, I'm going to start watching your coverage. I've been watching different ones. Law and Crime when I have time. I'm a new grandma.
Yeah, support your YouTubers, man. There's me, there's Ikadmel, there's Chasing Truth, or Tracy Ann, who calls herself, who is also known as Chasing Truth. There's a few people covering it. Grizzly True Crime is covering it too. Support your YouTubers, man.
That's so
Yeah,
kind of,
like
that's kind of you to throw. You know, that's kind of you even. That's really sweet that you actually, gave kudos to them, because the truth is, I had watched when I can. Now I'm a new grandma. She's 3. Maybe is still new. I have 1, and she's a little precious little baby girl that I'm just obsessed with. But I watched you this evening because I had time, and I thought, I like this. I like this channel, and I have been a sub for a while. Not that you check every day or anything, but I have been a sub to you, and I was up to many people, but I'm not always in their live chats. But I've enjoyed your chat this evening, and one of your subs is so sweet. Corvette, I'm going to give a shout out to Corvette Sally. She was so sweet.
yeah, Corvette Sally's a sweetheart. Yeah,
she's a sweetheart, and
I'm really proud of the demographic that I've attracted into my chat. I'm really grateful because these are people who are empathetic towards victims, and they're also very logical, rational people too. So I enjoy having that element in my chat. I don't take it for granted at all.
No, and I'm the same. I live a normal life. I don't care. I'm in Tampa. I don't care if anybody wants to hunt me down, because there's nothing fine. I live out in Tampa, and I have great family here, my immediate family. My dad's just deceased. We lost him suddenly in December from, I don't want to get anyone sad or change the story, but so I've been struggling, and especially my boys. That was their best friend, but I'm kind of back.
I'm sorry to hear that.
In the groove. Well, thank you. But I'm back in the groove a little bit. I've been watching the trial, and when it comes to kids getting killed, it just sickens me. And I just can't handle it. But I wanted to just, say something and come on board and say hello and let you know that I.
Yeah, that's why I've got the phone. That's why I opened the line, man.
I like that you have that where we can call in.
Yeah, it's new. It's new. So I'm going to be doing this more often for sure.
I'm originally from up north. My dad was Irish, Air Force retirement. I was military brat, traveled the world, lived in Berlin. I'll just shut up about myself, but I'm just saying that I enjoy YouTube. I avoid all the toxicity and all the BS stuff. We won't get into that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But thank you for your thank you. I enjoyed your chat this evening, and I'm gonna stay on board and watch you as well, and hopefully I can call in another time, and I'll give the next caller a chance.
Right on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Claire, and good luck with your channel, okay?
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right. You have a great evening.
You too.
And I'll be back on the platform.
Right on. All right. I got time for one more caller.
Okay. Good night now.
Good night. You are on. Who am I talking to?
Oh, good. Lisa from California.
Hi, Lisa from California.
I didn't think I'd make.
I'm
Hi.
talking to Will from
I didn't think
Miami.
I'd make it through. Yes, I am. I was wondering, what do you think? Do you think she still might testify?
No, she's already stated that she's not going to.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah. So now it's going to be closing arguments tomorrow, and then the jury will deliberate, or I'm not even sure if they're going to have court tomorrow. But now it's just closing arguments as far as I know, and then the jury will deliberate. But
oh my gosh,
Letitia
it's
is
going
not
down
going to
to 15.
testify.
Okay, well, I figured she had nothing better to lose. I mean, she's got nothing to lose either way.
Well, and I'm glad she's not, because I mean, I realize that all of us have that little small part of us that want her to testify because we want to see a shit show. You know what I mean? But we also have to keep in mind that that's still that's abusive towards the victim's family. That's abusive towards Gannon's loved ones.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that she's
so
not going to
true.
testify for the sake of Gannon and for the sake
You're
of
right.
Landon
I
and
agree.
Al and
I'm glad
everybody.
that she's not.
Right.
That's true. I didn't think about that. And that's one thing about this. I know that you've been real passionate about this case, and you made that video, the pre-recorded video. and you did such a good job on it, I thought. And so I decided to follow it through you.
Thank
you know,
you. Wow,
the way
that's
you've been
great.
covering it has been awesome. You've been sticking to the subject. I mean, you don't change it up about everything else. You've had guests, you've taken calls, you've just covered this great, and I really appreciate that, like the previous caller. Are you going to cover any other cases?
Yeah, I am. This is a case that I've been passionate about for 3 years. So it is getting 100% my energy and attention right now. And then once this is over, and I'm so grateful that the trial went quickly in half the time that was projected it would take. So I'm really grateful for that, because a lot of people are like, this is a long trial. No, it just seems long because you had to listen to hours of this woman lie. But it was projected to be much longer. So,
you know, I think about when she was in that car with that cop, and she took that monster, hit the cop in the face, and then said, "But she was mean to me." And then I think about, my God, that woman was alone with that little boy. Yeah,
right.
I mean, it just freaks me out thinking
and
about
she was
that.
perfectly rational. She was like, I'll stop fighting for you. I'll stop fighting for you, but not her. She was
so calm. Like they were wrestling when she was already done and calm, and then turn on the cooler. I mean, she was alone with him and did what we all know
she was making excuses as it was happening. So you saw the evil she's capable of. And people don't want to pay attention to that. That's not crazy. That's crazy to think that she could do that and get away with it. But we're just talking about a violent, fucked up person that needs to be removed from our society and put in
I feel she's evil.
A cage.
I feel she's evil.
She's an animal that needs to be put in a cage, in my opinion, period. You know, like I'm not interested in
the way she looks up at them when she was looking at the lady testifying today. I mean, just evil.
Right.
That's what I see. It's scary, but I understand why this case meant so much to you. And I hope the best for that family. I mean, gosh, I couldn't imagine. None of us could.
Yeah, like when are we, what are we going to do? We're going to start bleeding heart for every single person and think that we can treat and dude, this is we're talking about since the beginning of mankind, there has been people with that have murder in their nature, and it is not acceptable. It's not okay.
It's all for
There's
personal
never an
gain
excuse
of some
for
sort.
it.
It's some sort of gain. I mean, there's another case that's similar that I just saw about that woman who put the little girl in a cart and toted her in front of her mother's house.
Right.
That's another Letitia right there.
Right. I mean, if they're, if people justify their actions,
oh my God.
Yeah. If people justify their actions with mental illness, where do we draw the line there? You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to be able to prevent that. We're not going to be able to treat something that's in our nature. You know what I mean? That's like saying if somebody's a fucking murderer, they're a fucking murderer, dude.
You still should be up, right?
Right. If somebody's a murderer,
makes you kill somebody, you're still a murderer.
Plain and simple. If somebody's a murderer, they're a murderer. If somebody's gay, they're gay. You can't treat it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that being gay is wrong. I'm saying because, but it's the way you're just simply wired. You're just wired that way, and you know, being a homosexual or a trans person, that's just who you are. But that does not. I mean, but you're not victimizing people. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Child molesters, child molestation.
Yeah,
people who are child molesters. That is, I do believe it to be a sexual orientation, but that's not something that needs that can be treated. You understand?
Yeah.
They need to be removed from our society because what their sexual orientation does is victimize people. You cannot victimize people. You're not allowed. There's never an excuse for it.
Amen. Exactly. You're not allowed to do that.
Right.
Period. No matter what you are, you know, and we're not going to mold people to be us.
I'm more than happy.
If they're not, they're not.
I'm more than happy to feel sorry for you. I'm more than happy to feel sorry for you, but I have to do it with you behind bars, period.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Like, that's right.
So
I'm looking forward to you covering another case, and I will watch with you the rest of this case, and let's hope for the best.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so glad you did the calls. I hope you continue.
I will. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, folks. All right, guys. That's gonna be it for me. I really appreciate you guys calling in, and I appreciate all of your insight and opinions in the chat and being respectful towards each other. I think it's great. I'm really grateful. I meant what I said. I'm really grateful for the chat that I've managed to attract to this channel. So it really means a lot to me. And it's funny. I got to talk to a buddy of mine today that I haven't spoken to in a long time. It was just great to hear his voice, and it was cool because like I was talking about doing this to him, I was talking to him about doing this, and I was really like proud of what I'm doing. I never really think about it that much, but I was genuinely proud because it's not often that I get to talk to somebody from my past who I love very much and tell them about what I'm doing here. And the reason why I'm proud of this is because you guys are a part of this. This is all you guys. So it means so much to me. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. I am going to wrap this up, guys. I love you very much. And we will do this again very soon, my friends.